pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Board members are reminded that it is our duty to avoid conflicts of interest and appearance of conflict as we handle the work of the advisory board. Does any member of the advisory board know of any conflict of interest or appearance of conflict of interest corresponding to any of the matters coming before us today?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to acknowledge that I've recused myself from the first application this morning, the CFA Community Public Charter School. That's a Team CFA affiliated school, and I'm the chair of a board of a Team CFA charter school.
Thank you, Mr. Friend. If at any time during the course of the meeting you become aware of a actual or apparent conflict of interest, please bring it to my attention. It will be your duty to abstain from discussing the matter and from voting on the matter. The mission of the Charter Schools Advisory Board is to work to ensure the existence of high-quality charter schools in North Carolina. All right. We are going to get started today with CFA Community Public Charter School. And whenever Danielle's ready, we'll go ahead and get started. Is she going to kick it off, or do you want me to?
You can. She's stuck in the elevator.
Those elevators are causing an awful lot of problems. Yeah. All right, if we could have the CFA Community Public Charter School come forward to the podium area, those of you that are board members, and we can while they're doing that, I'll just review. We have 60 minutes for the full board interview. I'm going to set this really loud timer for 60 minutes. And we're going to, basically the structure that we've been following is you all will introduce yourself. We'll give you, a couple minutes to share any thoughts that you have. Then we'll discuss items that we want to talk about as a board or anything in the rubric. We'll have about 20 minutes for questions depending on how the flow is going. And then we'll just I try to leave 15 to 20 minutes at the end for us to just discuss as a board, at which we will close the question and answer time, and then we'll talk from there. So at this point, why don't you all introduce yourself, and while I'm pulling this up, and then I can go over the kind of breakdown. Actually, I have it right here. So this is, no, that was yesterday.
There you go.
I wonder where today's thing is. No, it's not. That's just yesterday. I got it right here. Okay, so this is CFA Community Charter opening in, planning to open in Gaston County. And we have 350 students, grades K to 5 in the first year. In year 1, year 2, 450 students in K6, year 3, 550 students K7, and then 650 K8 in year 4, and then leveling out at 675 in year 5 with 675 students. And pass-fail ratings, mission, purpose, and goals: 4 pass, 1 fail. Ed plan, all pass. Governance and capacity, all pass. Operations, 4 pass, 1 fail. Finance, 4 pass, 1 fail. This application is requesting acceleration. Assistance was provided by Leaders Building Leaders and Team CFA, and they have had participation in each required RTO planning session. Great. So if you could give a brief introduction of yourself and your position on the board, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the Commission. My name is Charles Graham. I'm a licensed North Carolina attorney, currently serving as Assistant City Attorney for the City of Gastonia. I'm also a licensed educator, and I have the privilege of serving as Chairman of the Board for Team CFA Community Public Charter.
Good morning. My name is Vidya Torbett.
I'm the legislative assistant for Representative John Torbett, and I am vice chair of the Community Public Charter School.
Good morning, I'm Charlie French. I serve as a school director in Charlotte for a Team CFA school, and I serve as the secretary on the Team CFA CPC board.
Morning, my name is Jay Burt Freeman, and I have a history of working with educators in professional development, staff development, leadership consistency, and I'm pleased to be here. I'm a member of the board.
Good morning. My name's Eddie McGinnis. I'm a retired educator of 30 years in Gaston County, retired as principal at East Gaston High School, and currently serve as pastor at Community Pentecostal Center in Stanley. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Brad Jonas, I'm a facility advisor, and just privileged to be a part of this. And thank you.
Good morning. My name is Kelly Scott. I am assistant principal at a Team CFA school, and I am currently serving as an academic advisor.
Hello, I'm Sherry Reynolds, and I am the head of school for Community Public Charter. I am a retired educator, lifelong educator, I will say. I've retired from Gaston County schools as principal at Arlington Elementary, a school that was the lowest performing in the county when I was assigned there as principal. And in 6 years, we moved that school to 92% proficient from 37%. This was a Title I school. The majority of our students were at the poverty level, and we had a majority of minority students. And we just put together a very, very strong team, had to go in and make lots of changes in order to assure that every student was given the opportunity to learn. And I'm very excited to be the head of school for community, because this time it will not be going in and making changes in order for students to learn, but this time I get to be a part of actually creating the learning environment that will assure that every child has that opportunity to learn, and that every teacher on the staff believes that every child can learn, and that we control enough of the variables in our school to assure that this learning takes place. Thank you.
Good morning. My name's Greg Senders, and I'm the state director for Team CFA and representative of the CMO that is proposed to operate the school. Be happy to answer any questions that you have about the relationship. Thanks.
Okay, great. So why don't we get started by talking about the acceleration portion of the application. The applicant is requesting an accelerated timeline, which means they would open in the fall of 2019. Their explanation is related to the experience of the board chair. Mr. McGinnis has served the town of Stanley as a teacher, school administrator, minister, dedicated to success. And that's, Mr. McGinnis is the board chair still?
No, go ahead, Charlie. You address that part.
No, at our initial interview, we heard from you, understand the concern of a perception of perhaps a conflict of interest, and in order to head that problem off, the board has voted, and I have assumed the role as chair. I was vice chair before. We've elected another vice chair so that we can go ahead and address that. That it wasn't an issue for us to see something hold up the charter, so we addressed that ourselves.
Okay. So Mr. McGinnis is just a board member at this point?
Right.
Okay. As you can see, there are other schools in the county, although they're saying that, or as the map indicates, this would be the only school actually in Stanley, in the town of Stanley, and need is kind of articulated. I don't know if y'all are looking at this here. Basically, proficiency of elementary schools and waiting lists on, at other schools as well. So that's kind of where we are with acceleration. Does anyone want to have any comments or questions for this board?
I have a question, Alex. Did we approve, and maybe it's Gastonia, so that's too far a distance, but didn't we approve a school for Gastonia that didn't end up making it?
I don't remember. Do we have any schools?
School that did not open
Yeah.
in Gaston County?
Yeah.
Yeah, Montrose Academy, which was going to open up in Belmont.
Belmont, so that's different. Do you remember, Dave, why?
They were having a issue finding a facility and property.
It's further south.
One question, the facility you have right now, is there going to need to be any construction, upgrades, or anything to it, or is it ready to go?
According to our Gaston County Director of Inspections, he has been out and checked our building, and he says it is easily convertible to an educational facility. There will have to be some minor changes. However, we also have a contingent facility, and that particular facility already has a certificate of occupancy.
And where is that other facility?
It's about 2 miles from the original location.
What are the minor changes? And I know you've got a facility advisor that you brought with you, and he can answer that if needs to. Because I know you'd rather just open in the planned facility. So what needs to be changed?
The minor changes would be more or less the countertops, wheelchair accessibility as far as under the counters, just very minor. Fire, safety lighting in a few areas, but other than that, everything is...
So no real construction then?
No real construction, just more or less just renovating some restrooms.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I mean, just speaking to the board at this point, I think, overall this is, a fairly strong application. I want to get into some items in the application. I'll say, from my perspective, it doesn't meet the criteria for an acceleration. I think we ask all schools to demonstrate need. I think there seems to be a need in that community, obviously, that is consistent with that a charter school opening there could be a very good thing. I just don't think it doesn't meet what I would consider a unique type of circumstance that that I would consider for meeting the acceleration threshold. That's just where, in my opinion, right now. So I don't know if we want to get into the application itself and then talk through.
I'm curious. Well, I mean, in on acceleration, I'm curious as to how's their participation been in the ready to open process.
Okay, I have some information that I think will be helpful with this. When we think about why acceleration, the children in this community definitely need the opportunity for high quality education, and we know that that's what this board stands for. And the parents in this community certainly want school choice. And the board has been very active for over 2 years now, and they have already met all of the requirements that are to be accomplished during the planning year. So as we've already mentioned, the facility is in place. I have already been hired by CFA as the head of school and have been working actively since July. To date, we have 373 letters of intent for students. Our charter application, of course, was submitted by the due date. We, as a board, have attended all the RTO sessions since September, and we submitted our 37 documents for the RTO Part 1. We submitted them prior to the deadline. The board is actively involved in working on the ROT Part 2 documents, which will be due in May. We also have 43 volunteer forms that are already submitted. On our volunteer form, these are presented at all the events we attend. They're presented at all the information sessions that we have held over the last year and a half. And there's there's 18 areas that volunteers can sign up for. And in addition to these 18, some others have just added other interests that they have in volunteering for the school. We also have, or I have received as the head of school, 51 letters of interest and resumes for employment. We also have 54 letters of commitment from individuals and from business owners for monetary donations. And we also have a volunteer who keeps our Facebook page updated and designs our marketing materials. And we also have submitted letters to your board from the chairman of our county commissioners, from John Torbett, House of Representatives, from the mayor of Stanley, and from the town manager. And as I spoke earlier, you also received a letter from the Gaston County Director of Inspections. So since we've already met all of these requirements, and the need is definitely there, the want is definitely there, and we as lifelong educators and professionals are here today to ask for your approval of this charter and to ask you to recommend to the state board that we be granted acceleration for community public charter. And when it's all said and done, folks, this is all about opportunity for the children. We know that we have done our homework, so to speak. We know that we are well prepared. We know that we can be very effective in providing a high-quality education for these children. So it is our request today that you all consider this the opportunity for the children. 350 children can begin their journey for an excellent education in August of 2019. Thank you.
And along that, kind of my thought is I don't know what we would be asking them to do for the remainder of the planning year. Hire ahead of school. You've already done it. Find a facility. You've already done it. Get letters of intent from students and do an application process. You've already done it. That's, I guess, they feel like you got all your ducks in a row and the balloon's up and don't want to pop it. And so I guess, you know, the main question for me would be, you know, is having the high wait list and having the underperforming schools, is that, you know, sufficient to get you past the first hump? Because I think really if you weigh at everything, y'all are ready to go, in my mind.
I would just,
it's over there.
Yeah, I think all those things are great, and you've clearly done a lot of work, and that's great. And that's one component of meeting the acceleration criteria. And I think it's great that you're way ahead of the curve. You've clearly put together a good board. I love seeing looking at the letters from community members. That having that broad-based support is exactly what we want to see for a charter school. And clearly you've made a great choice for your principal if somebody can deliver those types of results. I just don't know. Again, I would just say I don't think it meets the threshold of need. It sounds like a compelling need for a charter school, which I'm one person on this board, but that's my position.
My concern is, can we keep this person that's going to be the principal?
I think that's a legitimate concern. I just don't think the state board cares. Like,
calling and trying to get her.
If I could make a point.
I want to ask.
Yeah, I've got some schools that would love to hire.
Reiterate, how many letters of intent of children?
373.
373.
373, well, my question is,
When we were here in November, we had 309 letters of intent at
Okay.
that point.
and these are students that would be in the kindergarten through 5th grade? I mean,
Yes, ma'am, that is correct.
I mean,
I personally don't know what else we would ask somebody for acceleration. I mean, you guys have got the facility, now if we've got questions about
And Mr. Chair, you got 51 potential faculty members here chomping at the bit. You're going to lose them. You got the chair of the county commission that's supportive, and you got this need. I don't understand why we would dawdle and put them through another year of waiting.
I think that the criteria for acceleration is not that the board has done a lot of the work to prepare. If that's the case, then we would have approved the board yesterday, because they basically had the board from Wilmington also had a principal in place, letters of intent, faculty and staff, they had art teachers, people that were signed up to the school. The only difference is, I would say there's probably a little bit more need in a county like Gaston County. I just think that, to me, it's not clear and compelling in the nature, in line with what you see at a school like Poquoson, which, in fact, is not as quite as, they've clearly done more work, but I think they checked all the boxes, including the need. That's just my interpretation of this, and I'm also trying to think about what we're talking about when we get in front of the state board.
Okay, would it be appropriate at this time for our chairperson to share with you information about our targeted population?
Sure.
Okay.
And then I think we should move on and talk about the ed plan and other items.
Okay, thank you. And I think this addresses part of the need that I'm hearing the chair speaking about, but and the acceleration will help. Part of my experience working, well, in education was I worked at the high school that our target population feeds now. So I know the ability of the students, their parents, their families from 10 years experience there. I have served as a town manager for over 3 years of the town of Ranlow, which is the next town south of Stanley. In that role, part of my responsibility was trying to recruit employers to Gaston County to fill all of the empty manufacturing buildings that are there now because of the change in the economy. Right now, negotiating deals with the city of Gastonia, Gaston County, to recruit new employers and employment base. The top of their list of concerns is tell us what quality of employees we're going to have. And that's the first thing they talk to us about. And in talking to us about that, they emphasize the need for things such as things that you and I as professionals would take for granted. Those students understanding the importance of being on time, being diligent, reporting to work every day, having the math skills that the modern manufacturing requires that the old line textile manufacturing did not require. Reading comprehension skills, to be able to sit down with a technical manual, read it, and then solve problems for that employer rather than just simply focus on mundane tasks. That Gaston County is just now rebuilding from the loss of the textile industry with the global economy. Our new employers that we're bringing from the West Coast, from Europe and other places, are telling us we want an employee pool that is trained in the things that we have deliberately chosen our curriculum around. And for example, the things that I mentioned that we would take for granted, our core virtues that's going to be integrated in 8 years of the curriculum talk about things like respect, responsibility, diligence, self-discipline, perseverance, stewardship, loyalty, honesty, justice. These are things that, from my experience, are missing in the population that we want to pull into this school. Our core knowledge curriculum is going to assist these students to get better at being able to sit down with a technical manual and rather than just perform a task, collaborative solve problems for their employer. That's the type of learning we're going to put in place in the school.
So what you're saying is that the people in the community and businesses and whatnot want to see an effective school.
Yes.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that at all. Let's talk about the targeted student population that the principal referenced. In terms of what are we talking about in terms of economic diversity? We know that Stanley, the town of Stanley, is I believe, an economically diverse location. How is the school going to be reflective of that?
Okay. I think probably it was uploaded to the board. I provided some demographic information from the research I had done, but
okay.
The
e-board or the application portal? E-board. Oh, okay.
Stanley and the north central northeastern part of the county is different from the south central southeastern part, in that if you look at the size of the cities, Gastonia is thriving because it did diversify. The northern part of the county has not diversified. It is still made up of people as I just described. 20% of the households in Stanley and the surrounding unincorporated communities that we would be drawing from don't even have high school education. Barely 20% are going to have higher than high school education. So it's a diverse community from the thriving part of the county. And again, it ties back to the economics. In terms of the subgroups within there, I broke down the difference between Gaston County as a whole and Stanley and its surrounding communities. 83% white, 14% black, 4.8% Hispanic, 1.1% Asian countywide. You get into our target area, you're talking about 87% white, 9.9% black, less than 1% Hispanic or Asian. So there's a need to pull some diversity in there. We see that. We're going to offer that opportunity. But our little community is an island even within our county in terms of who we're trying to serve. And again, our goal is to provide these students and these parents who really are not as equipped to prepare their own children for the global economy. We're trying to help to diversify that area, provide that area with what it will need to attract the renewal that the southern half of the county is enjoying. And that's our goal. That's what we intend to do. And again, that's why we have deliberately partnered with Team CFA with their success in the past. That's why we deliberately chose the curriculum that we have chosen. We think it will make a difference. And again, we're talking from experience in the local LEA and seeing where the difference hasn't been made up until now.
Great. Okay, so let's talk about, we're somewhat familiar with CFA applications in terms of kind of content specific things, ed plans. We know it's core knowledge. What's the math program going to be again? Is it Eureka?
Singapore.
You said you were deciding between Eureka and Saxon, right?
We have chosen Singapore math.
Singapore, okay.
Yes.
And then, did anyone have any questions at all on the ed plan specifically?
I just wanted to ask the principal that are you familiar with the core knowledge and what is your experience with that?
I have
what are your
made
thoughts?
myself familiar with it since I've been appointed as the principal. I have been visiting other schools that are using this particular curriculum. Mm-hmm. So I guess I'd have to say I'm being self-taught. And it's a very, very strong curriculum. It's a curriculum that serves all students and serves them very well. It's designed so that it addresses not only the students who are excelling in their studies, but it also has interventions built into it for students who might be struggling with their studies. So it is a very rigorous curriculum. Without a doubt, it's going to take much professional training for the teachers, for teachers who, a few of these teachers who are interested in teaching at this school are currently teaching in the traditional public schools in Gaston County, and they are so ready for a change, and it's going to require a very in-depth training for them because it's totally different than what they've been accustomed to, and we have all that in place already. We have our professional development schedule being worked on.
How many days of professional development will they have before school starts?
2 weeks at the beginning of school, and then throughout the school calendar, throughout the school year, they've got days periodically when they'll have the work days, and they'll be getting professional development. In addition to that, we're set up to run an 8-hour-a-day school. That's going to give every teacher two 45-minute planning periods every day. So during those 45-minute planning periods, at least one of them will be used for professional development, some of it coming in-house from our instructional coach, and some of it coming from people outside that we bring in to actually do the training.
How many instructional coaches will you have?
Excuse me?
You'll have one instructional coach?
One instructional coach to begin with, yes.
How are you going to afford that? You're just going to have a lot of, I mean, I noticed the discussion around the specials teachers. How many specials teachers will you have?
Art, music, and PE.
How will you give two 45-minute planning periods?
Well, that will be structured in the extended school day, the extended hours. We've got enough time set up that it'll be a very unique structure and schedule.
But it seemed, well, in the beginning, I guess you'll be K5.
K5.
6 grades.
With 350. It seems like it would be difficult for those 4 teachers to cover all of the classes 2 times a day. So who will cover the kids?
It will be difficult, but it's not impossible, and we are working on it. We do not have all those details worked out, but they will be worked out before August.
Does Aristotle have that?
Aristotle have what?
Have the same 2 45-minute free blocks for teachers?
Ms. Scott works on our schedule a lot, but I also wanted to jump back and speak a little bit, if you didn't mind, to the support. I've been at Aristotle for year and a half now, and I've had an opportunity to work with the curriculum and with the core knowledge coaches that are straight from core knowledge. And throughout the past, say, 7 or 8 months, we've developed what we call, affectionately, the school in a box, which is basically the daily lesson plan. So we already have ready to hand our teachers their daily lesson plan laid out for core knowledge, all 180 days. We use Eureka Math, which is Singapore concepts with the Eureka curriculum, laid out 180 days. We have developed already the assessment trackers. Every test that's in core knowledge at every content area is already laid out with the rubric to tell the teacher this is a high needs, medium, high, medium low, or low. We already know how to group the children based on how they score at every assessment. We have all of that, and we're not going to charge the school for it because that's just, what good neighbors do.
Great.
But that's all part of the curriculum coaching. That would be something a coach would do that we've already done and prepared, and we are ready to give it to Ms. Reynolds.
That's great.
But the other question you asked me about, did Aristotle give daily planning?
Well, the 2 45-minute. I'm just trying to figure out how that's going to work.
So Aristotle does currently give 40 minutes a day. Is that right? 40 minutes a day, 4 days a week, and 80 minutes 1 day a week for PLCs.
Are you extended day at Aristotle? Is it extended day at Aristotle?
I don't know why I can't understand him. What did he just say?
Is it extended day?
Well, we work not quite as long. We're 7 hours. We're 8 to 3.
Okay. What did you find as the limitations on Singapore Math?
So Singapore Math is the concept of concrete to pictorial to abstract. I'm sure you guys, I can tell you, I don't want to bore you with things you already know, but I always, same old thing, but here's an item and here's an item. This is concrete. Here, child, hold this and hold this. These are 2 things, and the children realize in much larger scale, but this is one and this is one. And they go from the concrete of holding those manipulatives to then, may I borrow your pen, video? May I borrow your paper as well? to learning to say, okay, here's an item, and I hate to demonstrate it just like this, but here's 2 items. This is one and this is one. I was holding it, but now I'm drawing it. That's concrete to pictorial. And they go to learning that this is 1 item and 1 item, that's 2. This is 1 and this 1. If you circle it, that's 2. And then going from that to the algorithm of 1 + 1. That concept is repeated over and over and over through Eureka Math, even on up into algebraic. And when I used to work at the county, the thing I thought that a lot of people failed at is by the time a child was in 4th or 5th grade, they expected them to know those abstract contents, abstract ideas, without showing them something in their hand. And so to take a child from using numbers to using letters without showing them what that is and giving them something to build with their hands, you miss out on a whole group of learners there. So we chose Eureka Math to teach Singapore concepts, which is that same concrete pictorial abstract.
I mean, at the end of the, people feel all different types of way about different types of curriculum. I was just kind of wondering, how thoroughly you all had investigated, because I know you investigated Singapore and decided to change.
Well, it's not changed. So Singapore is the curriculum idea of that concrete pictorial abstract. We chose Eureka because it was an Americanized version. When we looked at Aristotle, which that's comparing apples to oranges really, we looked at Aristotle's history and saw that the math really needed some consistency of vocabulary and things like that. You go from teacher to teacher to teacher, and one teacher calls it borrowing and regrouping, the other one might call it carrying or whatever. We needed to create a consistent vocabulary. Eureka provided that, but it did not change the way we taught math or the idea of our math. It just gave us a more, what's the word, like laid out?
Standardized.
But just, so basically, you'll be collaborating as a board member with the principal?
And offering any insight that we've gathered over the past 1.5 years and what went well and what didn't and how to fix it.
Great. So anything, go ahead.
I just wanted
we'll
to
get
ask,
to governance and operations.
What do you see as the most important components of a literacy program?
Can I get Kelly Scott to talk to you about that?
I think we should have the principal
I'd love
share.
to see the
I was going to say,
principal.
Yeah.
And let's start with kindergarten. Start with the early
Okay.
literacy.
The major focus here is to be sure that children do learn how to read, and there are very many components of that. And we're going to work with them to make sure that they learn the skills that are necessary, the skills that align to the standard of course of study at the state level. There will also be a phonics piece in the program.
Are you're gonna do the core knowledge, skills, and language components?
Yes, we will. And vocabulary is going to be a major part of the reading program. There will be guided reading instruction for the children. There will be self-selected readings. There will be small group instruction. There will be some whole class studies. There also will be the literature-based core virtues part of the curriculum, which will be anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes every day. Will be directed toward using the core virtues and tying that to storytelling and or the reading of literature.
Okay.
Okay, so in terms of, I mean, CKELA is both the skills and languages are, it's a good curriculum. Yeah, it's a good curriculum. If they teach it well, it works. I guess around governance, I had an issue. Obviously we discussed last time the piece with the board chair and the facility. I didn't see any other issues. Obviously, Team CFA is going to support on the governance side too to ensure that things run effectively. They have a lot of experience there, so that's good. I want to talk about. Are you all doing the weighted lottery? Is there? Could someone share the rationale behind not doing it?
We discussed it, and we're being very intentional in our marketing and making sure every aspect of the community. This board is one of the hardest working boards I've ever worked with. They've been in the Stanley Christmas Parade. They participated in all kinds of events. They probably held 10 community information sessions in all aspects of Gaston County. in Mount Holly, in Dallas. We had one this Saturday. We've held them in Stanley. A weighted lottery isn't a requirement of law. And, but we welcome all students, and we understand, you know, particularly with the charter school grant, that that is a possibility. But as of now, the application before you does not include a weighted lottery. And just briefly on the topic of acceleration, we enjoyed the discussion in our clarification interview. And to quote the leader, the educational leader at this school, I don't know what we'd do with another year. I stand here before you asking for a unanimous vote to the State Board of Education. This board meets the requirements of the law. They clearly demonstrated the need. They meet the innovative nature of the charter school law, and they have a facility. They've met with the local planning department. They have the financing in place. We're willing to pump $500,000 in this school to get it open. If this school is not ready for acceleration, there is not a board that will come before you that is. Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
For my benefit, can you just kind of elaborate how Team CFA supports you financially and how that flows through your budget? And do they give you money to keep you going if you're having financial, how does that work exactly? Because I know you're different than like a CMO, but how?
So included in the application, Ms. Kroger, is our agreement with them. And our CMO agreement is for 10% of the total revenues of the school. And that includes what it takes to get the school open. So Team CFA is funding the employment of the head of school, and we feel that's very critical right now in the long-term success of the school to get the academic leader hired. And then, like I said, in our budget, we're prepared for furniture, for technology, for hiring staff early to provide up to $500,000 because, you know, as a financial responsible for the finances of another charter, it takes a lot of money to get one of these schools open. And so the 10% flows through the budget. And so our initial investment in that is part of, factored into that 10% fee.
So then you get a 10% fee back each year? Is that?
Yes, that's correct.
If there's financial issues, do you adjust that accordingly? Or?
Yes, so if you look at the charter agreement that's in the application, it states that we're basically in last position, right? Kids come first, needs of the school are above us. If there's not money left when all bills are due, we can't take our 10%. And if there's a shortfall, we're prepared to step up and, you know, support the operation of the school in that manner too. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
So we talked about the lottery. Let's talk about transportation. It looks like you're expecting 2/3 of the children to come by car, and 2 school buses for cluster stops to transport 115 students. And how much is in? I just need to. Can somebody just talk about the vision behind the transportation plan and why you think it'll be adequate?
Our plan is to take the pins and put them on the map, and to provide cluster stops where needed when we have our meetings in the Mount Holly area, And when we have our meetings in the Dallas area and toward the Lincoln County area, if the pins are needed to provide those cluster stops, most of the parents that we've talked to, you know, are not expecting the transportation to be needed for their child. But if we see, you know, that need in there, much like Mountain Island does, they'll pull a bus into a parking lot and the parents will meet that bus there and the child will board the bus, and then after school that bus will return to that same spot. That's our thought right now.
So I see $30,000 to purchase the buses, 20 for gas, 12 for oils and maintenance. Who's going to drive the buses and how are we going to pay them?
Those would be.
It's in there too.
Yeah, some
Is
of
that
the,
in the? I'm trying to see.
It's in the,
is it in personnel?
Personnel, transportation
great.
staff.
How many buses do we think we would need at scale?
2. I think 2, it would be fine. We run Aristotle on 3
Okay,
all
you'll
over
have to
Okay, you
Charlotte.
gotta come down
Sorry.
to the mic.
We
We
run
got millions
Aristotle.
of people in China listening to you
Oh,
right now.
hey, China, and Clemson fans who are excited, right?
That's
I
right.
thought about you the other night. So we run Charlotte with 3, and we are able to cover the entire city with 3 buses, 2-hour routes, and we do more than zone stops. We do house-to-house stops and pick up about as many kids as we are thinking are going to be the need here in the Stanley area with zone stops. So I figure 2 buses is, I believe that's a really good guesstimate of what we need. 2 buses, zone stops. But we're prepared to make it more if we need to. We have the community support. We have over $40,000 that's been given to us already for this cause. We're ready, you know, if we need to buy a bus with it, we'll buy a bus.
Isn't it more rural? Don't you think you need more buses in the Gaston County?
So, are you familiar with the area? Have you been
Not
there?
really.
Okay, so, I hate to pinpoint it on a word, but if you've seen a mill village before, like it's a lot of very small houses, low-income people, neighborhoods. It's a safe place to be, so people don't mind to have their kid walk to the end of the street, whereas I in Charlotte have to go house to house because people don't want their kids walking from the front door to the sidewalk without their dad or mom standing on the porch waiting on me. But in Stanley, it's well, I guess I could just say like a Mayberry. It's very much like that. It's everybody knows everybody. Everybody meets at Friendly's on Saturday morning for breakfast kind of place. And if you don't know everybody there, if you stay more than a week or so, you probably will know everybody there. They're just a very tight-knit community. It reminds me of when I used to grow, you know, my grandmother's house. She lived on the Mill Village, and, you know, everyone sat on the front porch and drank sweet tea. It's still, there is a place like that. It's called Stanley. And so but those people deserve choice as well. And I worry about that part of the county. I know that when my husband and I were looking at where we were going to build a house, we didn't consider Stanley because the school up there was not rated very well, and you only have one choice if you're in Stanley. So we, you know, they have a K-2 school, a 3-5 school, a middle school, and a high school. And it's, you know, Miss Reynolds, she's done her homework on the data for Gaston County schools. If you would love to hear that, I would love for you to hear it because it's kind of dismal. I mean, and with Ms. Reynolds' record of what she's been able to do inside Gaston County schools, the very area that we want her to work now, it's pretty amazing. And those children are forced, because their parents cannot take them 25 minutes to Piedmont, nor did they get in if they could. They can't afford the private school. That's, you know, I did it for a couple of years. I was fortunate to be able to, but it's $850 a month to go to Gaston Christian School. That's a lot of money. When it came time, I had to decide, could I take both of my children to Gaston Christian or pull them both out? I was so thankful that they both had an opportunity to go to Piedmont because their closest schools were rated Ds. These children have no option. Their school is a D school and nowhere to go. They can't afford private school. The parents don't have the education to homeschool. Their only option is where they are right now. And I think that we owe that to them to give them, you know, something. That's equity in education right there, friends. And just giving everybody an equal opportunity to take the knowledge that we can give them and do great things. Stanley has a lot of potential, but it's not going to be realized with its current situation.
I mean, I'm pretty familiar with Gaston County. I had a family member that lived there one time, and you know, I mean, I haven't driven a lot through Gaston County, but the way I always remembered it when we would go is there would be the population spread out, but it's clustered. And I know that sounds different. It's you know, you might go 2 miles, but then there'd be a whole bunch of smaller houses, kind of your mill town, and then you'd go another mile, and then there'd be nothing for that mile in between, and then there would be a lot there. And so the cluster idea probably will work well in a community that's set up like that.
The other thought is all of those mills are closed, and with Mr. Graham's position with Gaston County, you know, they are interviewing employers all over the world trying to get people to come back to Gaston County to revitalize it. No one wants to be there because of the situation of, you know, the parents aren't educated, so then the children aren't educated, and we're trying our best to change that. And if you were to come to Gastonia, you would see right in the heart of the town, they're working on a ballpark there, much like the one in Charlotte. We're bringing new employers to revitalize what's called the Luray Mill Project. If you look that up, it's beautiful. $40 million was pumped into there. Now we have businesses, we have doctor's offices, things like that that are coming to our area, but that's all where the Piedmont School is and south. We've got to work on the northern side as well.
Great. Okay, I'm going to close questioning right now unless people have burning questions on any other items so that we can discuss. Okay, we have about 14 minutes. Thoughts?
I will say I don't know what else you could do for another year. I think if there was ever an accelerated school, the program charter application, and this is it. This is far along than some of the accelerated school applications we had yesterday, especially with having 350 intent letters. I don't know what else you could do except send out applications and enroll the kids.
And a year is a long time.
Well, especially in a county like, well, I wish the map was back up there, where it's not like Wake, it's not like Mecklenburg County. There definitely is a need, and it's not like you don't have support to know what to do. Not only do you have a principal that has done a turnaround school, very experienced, but you've also got the support of Team CFA.
I'm very concerned if we carry on this school, it's going to lose a lot of its assets that are currently in place. Again, the faculty, the support of the county commission, the head of school, she's a rock star from, if she's to be believed, from her prior experience. Yikes, if this is not a case for acceleration and get this school moving, I don't know what would be.
I feel like it's a very strong application, and I think there's a lot to be said for momentum, and they have a lot of momentum behind them. So again, my concern would be if we did wait another year, you would kind of lose that momentum.
I'm looking at the board members, and there's 5 listed board members, and I see more people. Who could you raise your hand if you're actually on the board of directors? Okay, so you are the core 5. And the principal is, okay, got it.
Mr. Chair, I move that we recommend to the State Board CFA Community Public Charter to continue the Ready to Open process and to open on an accelerated track.
I second.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded. I'd like to discuss. Sherry, where are you on this one?
My biggest concern is with the grade span and the curriculum, because those are such stringent curriculum, pulling in the upper levels if a student hasn't been exposed to Singapore math or core knowledge. The application itself, as far as need, it spoke to wait list or whatever. I don't think they did a great job in expressing that, as they have done here, expressing the need, the burning desire. But I mean, I've looked at the counties. I totally understand the situation of the county. So I'm with my fellow board members. I just don't know what benefit it would be to delay this application. But I do have those few concerns.
That would be with the education plan.
It's not that, I mean, the ed plan itself is good.
No, I think the ed plan is good.
Right, but it's the tutoring,
the grade span, and, you know, I mean.
a fifth grader coming into core knowledge, a fifth grader coming into Eureka Math.
Third, fourth, fifth, yes. Yeah.
Can we have somebody address that one particular issue, or can we?
Sure.
Okay,
Look.
let's have somebody.
Try to do it in 30 seconds or less.
Yeah.
So my child also went to a core knowledge school in the 5th grade. There was some catch up for her coming from Gaston County schools. So that involves the parents and the teachers and the before and after school care program that's already, you know, we're ready with that person who also works with core knowledge. So yes, there is some catch up. It can be done. The reason we needed to go K-5 is, again, if you go back to Stanley, we have a K-2 school and a 3-5 school. Many of the people who are in the K-2 school have siblings in the 3-5, and the parents want their kids together. So we're offering that to try to put back the families together in one campus.
Just real quick, I'd like to see the principal, I'd like to hear you. What will you do with that, knowing that that's going to be a problem? And what do you do if parents are not going to be able to help? I mean,
okay,
she's great, but all parents are not like her.
That's right. Okay, what we have in place already is assessments that we will do periodically on our students. So particularly with our 4th and 5th grade students coming in that have not had that prior knowledge, we will make sure that through testing, through pulling the data from their assessments, we will define the skills in the areas where they're weak. We will take the skills where they are not proficient, we will align those to the standard course of study, and then we will focus on the skill, and once they've mastered those skills, then the knowledge will come on. So we're not going to try to catch them up with every single bit of the spiraling curriculum that they have not participated in, but instead we're going to focus very particularly on what their deficiencies are, what their weaknesses are. We'll focus on it by skill, and then we will move them forward and work toward them mastering the particular skill.
Do you have remediation time built into the schedule?
Yes, we will have that built into the schedule. And also, that's something that classroom teachers, teacher assistants, in the differentiated learning, differentiated instruction within the regular instructional day, within the regular classroom, that component is built in so that we will have the intervention for the ones who struggle. We'll also be able to offer accelerated instruction for the ones who are excelling.
Ms. Reynolds, also with your teachers, is this these two curriculums pretty easily learned for them?
Yes, and what we're all about with this in-depth professional development, and I'll relate this back to my experience at Arlington as a principal there. The mindset when I went to that school was that these children are poor, so therefore they can't learn. Well, that's not my philosophy at all. My philosophy is every child can learn if they're given the opportunity. So it required lots of staff development. It also requires a lot of hard work. So as a result, at the end of my first year there, 19 out of the 24 teachers were gone. No one was fired. They left on their own free will. That opened the door for me to go out and recruit the teachers, and I recruited from far and wide. And brought brand new teachers straight out of college into the classrooms and brought to them the resources they needed. They were like a ball of clay in my hand. Not that I did what needed to be done, but I provided the resources. I found the people. I even had people coming in off of Larry Lazat's Effective Schools research. I even had people from his team coming into our school, spending a week at a time, teaching our teachers how to teach. And these were brand new teachers, and we took them and were able to mold them and to shape them so that they did make sure that every child had that opportunity to learn. And it works. It's it's a very basic thought. It's hard work, but it works.
The other thing I wanted to point out, especially in Gaston County, we know that the system next year is going to have 8 new magnet programs. So this is a great opportunity to have another choice for parents.
It's just that we were told that the
Delaney.
schools in Stanley were a D. The I'm reading something that says that they were actually, the Kaiser Elementary was a C and Stanley Middle were a C.
This past year, Kaiser was a C.
And Stanley Middle was also a C?
Stanley Middle was a C this past year.
Kaiser was less than 1 point away from being a D. They went up just by a couple of tenths of a point from the previous year. So the previous year was the D. And as a matter of fact, throughout the county, 14 out of the 27 elementary schools that are tested scored at a C or below. So.
I mean, most schools are C's. All right. So I think that, so we have a motion to move them forward for accelerated. My feeling is that I mean, at the end of the day, I think the state board is going to have to decide how they want to handle this. So I think I remain on the space of concerned about how we're interpreting need, but at the end of the day, it's a subjective. We don't have a criteria that says need is based on this number of seats available for students in a school district, and if they're not a certain number of seats at a school district and there's a such and such demand, therefore that constitutes need. We have no algorithm to determine that, so by default it becomes a subjective marker. I think that the board is strong, and so I'm gonna support the acceleration. I'm gonna do so based on that I'm gonna be able to make the case in front of the state board that this, based on the support of the management organization, the principal, and the board that they've established, as well as broad-based support in the community documented through the letters of support, that we feel confident the board's going to be able to open the school on time and draw the students. So this is more about the board and the preparations that have been put in place. In that is, I guess what I'm saying is I'm weighing that heavily. I think this would be easier if you all were to approve a weighted lottery and add another bus in your transportation plan. And I would not be surprised if the state board asked me those questions at the next meeting, because you're right, Mr. Sanders, it is law. It is not a requirement by law. But at the end of the day, the state board is the one that makes the decision on this. And I think it would strengthen your application if you had a weighted lottery. And I think if you truly desire to serve a broad economic base, I don't see any harm in it. So I would encourage that. Obviously, I'm not making that decision. That's up to you all. But I imagine that it may come up. So that's kind of where I am, and I feel confident I'll be able to make a strong case.
Mr. Chair, I hope you understand that your board isn't necessarily here unanimous in its reverence for all aspects of weighted lottery. I mean, there's some diversity of view here.
I agree. I understand.
So that's your personal view.
No, all I'm saying is that when we talk about positioning the charter, the case for this charter on an accelerated timeline before the state board, I think that their application would be strengthened with the weighted lottery. I'm sharing my interpretation of the state board's opinion on that, not my own personal opinion. That's all I'm saying.
All right, thank you.
All right, so call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Congrats. What's that?
Make sure no abstention too.
Bruce abstained, Tammy and Cheryl were not present.
Just unanimously approved them.
And Heather voted. Did y'all hear Heather?
Ashley.
Ashley. Did you hear Heather?
This could be an odd.
Thank you.
Get in there.
Oh, we're spread across today.
Good morning.
Let's take a. We're about 5 minutes behind, but well, we're actually right on schedule.
Right on schedule.
But I think we can start Hobgood at 10. Let's start in 5 minutes. Is that enough time for people to use the bathroom?
Co-Chair Kakadelis. Today, the applicant group appearing before the board is Hopgood Charter Academy. They're proposing to locate in Halifax County. Their proposed grade levels and projected student enrollment are as follows. Year 1, K through 8, 225 students. Year 2, K through 8, 250 students. Year 3, K through 8, 275 students. Year 4, K through 8, 300 students. Year 5, K through 8, 325 students. We did not have an LEA impact or due diligence completed for this application. Pass-fail ratings are as follows. Mission, purposes, and goals, all pass. Education plan, all pass. Governance and capacity, all pass. Operations, all pass. And finance, all pass. They are requesting an acceleration, and they are a repeat applicant. They previously received a full interview. Greg Senders from Team CFA provided some assistance with the application, but there were no direct fees provided. And this applicant has had participation at each required RTO and planning year session.
Good morning. My name is Ron Elkins. I am bivocational as a business technology solutions engineer, as well as a United Methodist pastor serving a church in Edgecombe and Halifax County. And I'm the secretary of the board.
Good morning. I'm Nicole Flannery. I'm a site resource coordinator for Duke Energy Renewables, and I'm the vice chair of the board.
Good morning. I'm Kara Archer. I work for BB&T for Halifax and Edgecombe counties, and I'm a board member for Hopgood Charter.
Good morning. My name is Gloria Spruill Board, and I'm a retired educator, and I'm a board member.
Good morning. My name is Joyce Betts. I'm a new resident of Halifax and also a parent and a board member.
Good morning. My pleasure to be here. My name is Lindsay Moore. I'm a CPA. I have experience in the public and private sector and look forward to this morning's interview. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Joe McDowell, a pharmacist at Scotland Neck. I own a fourth-generation family pharmacy business. Also coached basketball in the community high school and college for 30 years. Dedicated fan of charter schools, advocate for our kids. We have a dear need in our area. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Ricky Cannon. I'm a farmer in the area. I coached Little League baseball for 14 years. Real concerned about our school situation in our area and board member.
Zane Stillwell, I'm a government affairs consultant in Raleigh, but I have a second home in the area about 20 minutes from where the school is located and a deep connection to this community. Thank you.
My name is Juliana Harris. I am a 21-year veteran of North Carolina Public Schools, where I have not only been a teacher but also a school administrator. I'm currently the board chair for Hopgood Charter School, and I just would like to remind you this morning that we are the little engine that could. We are the school that keeps coming back. We have taken note of your recommendations time and time again. We have, in our current application, addressed, we believe, every recommendation that was given to us last year, including a transportation plan, looking at our food and nutrition services, making some tweaks on our education plan. And so we are more than excited to be here with you today, looking forward to answering questions, and looking forward to a unanimous yes.
I want to say thank you for all the work that y'all have done on the application and the changes you've made over time. I think this is the first one we've had that all external evaluators passed every section of the application, so we don't see that a whole lot. That being said, we still have some stuff to talk about for sure, and so the first thing kind of on the list is accelerated, and my understanding is that this, you've basically got everything going on here, right? This is a new charter that's asking for acceleration that's also a conversion, right? So can you explain to us a little bit about how the conversion part would work and how that plays into the acceleration and the facility that you have?
Thank you. So yes, this is we are applying for a conversion. There's an existing K through 12 school in place, which is Hopgood Academy. Of course, we originally applied in the past for a K through 12 charter, which was going to be a full conversion of all grades. But that was, our recommendation was from the board, from this board, to go with K through 8, and we understood that. And so that's where we are. Hobgood Academy does plan to continue as a private school serving 9 through 12. They plan to continue to graduate the students that are in place. We are working with them as well. There will be a sharing of a campus for these two. I believe we would address that briefly in the previous meeting that we had for clarification, but we'll be glad to address how that works if there are any specifics around that.
Anybody have any
Could
questions?
you just tell me how that's going to look?
Are the students going to intermingle or how?
No, so it is going to be a shared campus, but there will be separate buildings that are housing the students in the private school versus Hobgood Charter School. Of course, there'll be some shared facilities like gymnasium, cafeteria, and some common areas. We have I think, a wonderful arrangement as far as where our lease will go. So we are in an existing facility right now. We will be in that same facility as we convert, and both will be on there. But our lease is based on the number of students enrolled by the building owner of the trust. We will spend no more than $1,000 per month or $100 per student per year for the charter school. The private school has a separate lease agreement with pretty much exactly, we believe, the same kind of terms. So we are able to, we will not be sharing any staff. Any shared resources, again, are being paid out by each entity based on the number of students they have enrolled or on the campus that we're in.
Did you say it maxes out at $1,000 a month?
That is correct.
Or $100 a year?
$100 per student per year, or $12,000 for the year, whichever is less. So we're
so it's going to basically be
$12,000
a year for the facility.
It's a great advantage to have that agreement in place for us financially.
And how many students are there left in 9 through 12?
In 9 through 12?
About 20 students.
20.
So going forward, you're attracting, you've got parents. Obviously, you have K through 8 students right now, but they'll have to apply just like any other student in the area who would want to attend the charter school.
That is correct. We have 68 students.
Educating, parents so that, they know it's terminal in 8th grade and then it becomes a private school in high school.
Okay.
Is that going to be, produce any kind of problem?
Okay, I follow you. Can you maybe clarify your question for me a little bit? How are we educating
the parents? How are you making the parents aware that, because Hobgood's been around for quite some time, correct?
That's correct.
The private school. So now you're going to open this in the fall, hopefully in the fall, as a charter school, the K-8 piece. But then you'll have the private sector still. So, tell me how your parents understand. And then, like for your 8th graders, what are their options for the following year? Are parents fully aware that they have 2 options, go to an LEA school or continue in the private school?
Right, so thank you for that question, because that has come up amongst our parents already as we go through this process for a third time. It is, as you can imagine, it's a relatively unpopular thing among parents. We would really like to have a K through 12 place in school to begin with, but we're going to work.
Difficult.
Yeah, we're going to work with the situation that we have. We've begun the education. It's been explained in the community interest meetings. It's been explained through the board meetings of the current school as where we are. Currently, Hobgood Academy serves a lot of kids that are already on either financial aid or opportunity scholarships, and a number of those are in our high school right now. So those may be available for reapplication. We've reminded parents of that. But at the end of the day, we just kind of really kindly and gently told them and set the expectations around where they are, because that's where we're applying right now. But they are, our parents are fully aware, and our students will be fully aware as well as the entire community.
What are your plans for educating parents? Because in the community, people see this as a private school. So in order to reach out to people who would not ever consider a private school because they think they can't do that, how are you gonna, what are your plans for making that known so that people who wouldn't normally consider might consider?
Thank you for that too. Again, yeah, we understand the reputation of a private school in a economically diverse community. That's just the way those perceptions have been. Luckily for us, like I said, we feel like sometimes it's been we wish we'd improved the first time. We wish we'd been approved the second time we apply. But there's actually some advantages to us being a third-time applicant, and a lot of that is understanding in the community. This is a 3-year process for us at this point, so we've had a lot more information that's been disseminated that way. We've had public interest meetings. We have, I think, a total of three Facebook pages with over 1,500 followers that we're disseminating information to as well. We'll continue to have community interest meetings, and we are emphasizing the differences in Hobgood Academy versus Hobgood Charter School. I know earlier in our clarification meeting, there was a question that that came up about even our name, which is originally was Hobgood Academy Charter School, operating kind of on the same campus as Hobgood Academy. So we are making intentions to actually go through an application to change the name even to Hobgood Charter School versus Hobgood Academy Charter School, to help draw some of that distinction as well as informing folks in every way possible. Sure.
One of the other things that we've done is we have disseminated interest surveys out into the community. Some of those have gone into light bills, and the neighboring communities that surround us have been agreeable to having us put interest surveys in their light bills that go out to all residents. And so on those interest surveys, it describes describes the school as a free public school.
Did you put free in like big capital?
Well, yeah, it's on everything that we are putting out, because we do want people to understand that.
And I understand, because you know, my school's been in existence for over 20 years, and people still call and say, how much does it cost to go to your school?
Right.
So with you guys being a former private school, yeah, you're just going to have to be very diligent.
Exactly. And
so, speaking of your surveys, how many interested applicants have you received?
So at this particular point, we have 218 students that we have received interest surveys from.
That would fit into the
Yes.
K-8.
Yes, that would fit into the K-8. And I don't think that is nearly comprehensive of what we will accrue once people are waiting on our yes. You know, people are a little hesitant. There are, you know, they're waiting and watching. They know this has been a 3-year process, and at this point, you know, they're kind of like, is it going to happen or is it not? When it happens, they will come.
How many of those intents are current students?
I believe 67.
Okay. And you've got 200?
218.
Okay.
That's excellent.
That's very good.
Yes.
I bet the parents are looking forward to not having you pay.
Right, exactly.
Well, they're still gonna pay.
But not
Just-
as much.
Right.
They don't have
We're
to
not
pay
going to pay twice this time.
The fee will be much less.
Indirectly instead of directly.
Yeah.
I will tell you, though, the application has gotten better every time you've put it in, and your board has gotten stronger.
Yes.
When I look at it from where you began to.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Is there shared transportation with the private school?
No, there is not shared transportation. Currently, the private school does not provide transportation other than parent-led van and carpooling, and there will not be shared transportation with the 9 through 12 private school.
What's the transportation plan for the K-8?
I'm gonna speak, and if I speak in error, correct me. We are planning on acquiring 2 school buses, doing cluster stops in our areas based on where the enrollment is going to come from. I know that I'll go ahead and answer the question as far as if there is one about where it is in the budget, but we anticipate potentially employing some of our teaching assistants as bus drivers as well for dual function.
So can you elaborate how Team CFA is supporting you at this charter school and what their role is? And also talk a little bit about the financial internal controls.
I think they just have done.
We will be contracting out the financial services to Team CFA. What they have done is basically offered us a sounding board for some of our ideas to make sure that we are on point. And honestly, we've got segregation of financial controls. They will have an oversight role as well as providing reports to the board to be able to ascertain what we're doing. And since a lot of these financial processes will be new to us, they are very experienced with us and keep us on the right track.
So Team CFA will be doing your financial and your power school and attendance?
Yes.
Correct.
And what would their fee be for you guys?
I'm sorry?
Their fee?
Is that $110 per student?
So it's a per student?
Yes, it's per student.
Any other questions?
Just who have you got planned to be the operator of the school?
That would be me.
You will be an operator. So you will not be on the board then?
I'm not a voting member of the board.
Oh, okay. Are you board chair?
I am board chair now.
Okay.
I've missed this. Did we ask them like what board members have changed since the last?
Yeah, I mean, have you had any changes in your board over the last couple of years?
Last couple of years?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Since clarification.
Even since clarification, I mean,
Not just clarification, no.
No.
since clarification, you're the same.
Oh, yes, since clarification,
since
we are the
last
same.
year,
Yes.
who's new
Since
since
last
last-
year, we have brought on a tremendous number. We have, you know, some,
Who raise your hand if you're new? Oh. Okay, so it's an all-new board. Okay, let me flip it. Who is still here on the board from last year? Okay, are you the author of the application?
we part of it.
Who is the, who wrote the application?
The two of us.
The two of you?
Yes.
And so in the process, you decided based on feedback, to transition so that this board is a separate entity from the board,
Yes.
people that are running the
Yes.
private school?
Yes. Further differentiation between the two schools.
So the board that's listed in your current application is the existing board?
Yes.
Are any of these people on the Hobgood Academy board?
No.
In the original application, that was the case, right?
Yes.
I think you guys have taken every recommendation we've said. And
We've tried mighty hard. I will tell you. We are in a place where there's such a need in Hobgood and in this area. You know, you've got the map up there, but what you don't see is the intersection. We are sort of in the middle of Martin, Edgecombe, and Halifax,
right,
where there's nada. And there's just a need for that. And Joe wants to speak to that.
Thank you for your time. Over decades, I've gone to these different communities and looked at revitalization and business development. And as soon as we get people interested, two things come back. One, your workforce, and two, your education possibilities and choices. And they continually stifle our communities of growth. And we know this is a problem, and this is our way to success. I read this morning Judge Howard Manning talking about Halifax County schools for the apparent failure to provide students with equal opportunity to obtain a sound basic education. Strong words, but this is academic genocide and must be stopped. This is our area. If you look at WRAL TV weather, when there's severe weather coming on, and we look at it and our farming community looks at it, you look at it, you got the green and you got the yellow and you got the red and then you've got the blood red. If you look at our area where these three counties come together, all of them are separated from county seats. Many schools, elementary, high school, and other, have closed in these areas that are away from the county seats. If you looked at our poverty level and our education level and put it on that map, it would be blood red. If you further drilled it down and saw which communities are being hurt the most, it would be exactly where we're at. There is an unbelievable need in this community for choice of schools. And you know what we're dealing with what's around us. And excuse me if I get emotional, but as I was driving at 6 a.m. and it was pitch black, and I drove through tips of these 3 counties, here were the thoughts that came to my mind as I saw kids waiting out in 28-degree weather. What a shame it is that they don't have an option. Many of us are fortunate. I'm not here for my kids. I've been able to raise my kids in a village and a community, and this village and communities will support this school. I've been fortunate. I'm old enough and mature enough that I know it's a shame that other kids don't have this opportunity. So it's a shame that they're waiting at 6 a.m. to get on the bus. It's a bigger shame that when they go to where they're going to get an education, that they're not going to get the best shot. We're going to start from new. We're going to do it. We are members and pillars of our communities. We do not fail. We are invested. We will not fail you. We will not fail this school if approved. You will be proud of us, and we will not fail these students in our area. We cannot.
Thank you. Are there any members of the board who have current students at the school or would have current students? Okay. Could we have?
Most of us have, so there are several of us that have one that would be in the charter school and one that would not be in the charter school because of the division of K through 8.
Yeah.
What happens if your child doesn't get drawn in the lottery?
We've got,
Well, they're board members.
the
so
board
they
members.
get-
Board members,
Right.
got it.
Yeah.
Have you talked to parents about that possibility? Like, where are you in the communication?
We are, as you can imagine, as we get closer to the day, and we've informed all those interested that today was the day we would receive hopefully a yes recommendation by this board. The questions continue to come, and it's a really big concern. But we are communicating it because it's a matter of fairness. It's the reason why we decided to do a weighted lottery as well for those that are economically disadvantaged. So again, people in our community who would be interested in the school are becoming well aware of the process of lottery, and again, we believe it to be a matter of fairness that we support and can substantiate why we're doing it.
What percent of school do you think would qualify for the weighted lottery of the students that are attending now?
Of the students that are attending now,
Yeah,
I
so it's
believe
probably your students that are on opportunity scholarships.
We've got 26%.
26%. And you have 104,000 in year 1 in transportation. Is that right?
That sounds right.
How come it doesn't increase dramatically until year 4? Seems like it's static, even though you add,
25 kids a year, though.
That's another bus, though, wouldn't you think? I guess.
I think that might be adding additional bus.
The transportation, we started off a little bit on the low side. I talked to the superintendent of the bus garage in Martin County and talked to him about buying some used buses, and he said we can go buy the paperwork, the maintenance has been done on the buses, and he could help us pick out a couple of good used buses, which is what we got intentions on doing. Needs to say things do wear out. Hopefully the school will get prosperous and we'll start getting all the students we need, more students than we want, and then maybe we can invest in some other buses. But we've got a pretty good area to cover because we're covering Robertsonville, Hamilton, Oak City, Hopgood, Scotland Neck. So we're going to do cluster stops. Hopefully the buses will give us 3 or 4 years, and then we may have to invest in a little different equipment. But that's our intentions as of right now.
How many bus drivers do you have in the budget?
2.
There are
For your
2.
system?
So you have 50,000. Is it 50,000 for the purchase, maintenance, parts, diesel fuel, and then I can't remember, and then it's in your personnel budget for
Yes.
transportation
50,000.
for the actual person?
We're using assistants. Their
Okay.
assistants are gonna drive.
They can get that bus license?
What's that?
You're gonna make the assistants get the bus license?
Absolutely.
Okay.
part of the job requirement.
Part of
We
it.
hope so.
Yep.
You need to make it so.
We will.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only way they're gonna do it.
If you don't, they won't.
Yeah.
It will be done.
I saw in the appendices quite a few letters from local officials, mayors, past mayors. Was there a LEA statement?
There is no LEA statement that we are aware of.
I mean, I'm feeling, you know, this is round 3, right?
Yes.
And to me, I actually feel like in this situation, this is a case of of the benefit of holding a rigorous process and giving feedback, to denying applicants that are not ready. And I just want to impress upon the board that I think we actually have now a strong application, a strong plan that is better suited to meet the school, the community where the school is located, that a board that is more diverse and more equipped, given that it's not made up of the existing private school board. Our denial basically forced the issue to put the school in a position facility-wise that is so much stronger than any school. So I just want to kind of put a pin in this and say, look at what happens when we hold a high bar and we say we don't rush the process, because this school feels way more equipped to do the hard work or this application than the application 2 last year and the year before that. And I just want us to think about, like, good things can come when we wait. And so as we kind of go through this, sometimes the first time is not the best, you know, just because the board thinks they're ready or it feels good doesn't mean that it's necessarily the best thing. And I think we have a much better outcome for kids in the end, since given that, you know, it's taken a little while. And I'm going to support the acceleration, because I feel like this is one of those situations where we have a school that they are ready to turn. They're already running a school, so all they need to do is basically redraw the lottery, and they can open. And obviously that's a oversimplification, but I feel like we have a case, and I can make a strong case to the state board that, look, we've denied these folks 2 times. And they've taken every single piece of feedback. They're the only school that has had all passes straight down the line. They're doing the weighted lottery. They have plenty in transportation. They're 25% opportunity scholarships. So this is a school that is going to have the diversity that's necessary in this community located where it is. So I'm going to support the acceleration, I think. And I just wanted to take that second to editorialize on the benefit of us holding a standard and really pushing our applicants to think hard and to make better choices.
That sounded almost like a motion.
I'm not going to make a motion. I'm
I'll
just
make the
telling
motion.
where I sit.
I'd like to make
Ms.
a
Reeves,
motion
you're
that we
recognized.
forward Hobgood Academy, or recommend to the state board, Hobgood Academy Charter School for acceleration, ready to open August 2019.
I second that. Wait a second.
All right, we
I
got a
would like
motion
to
and
say-
second all over the place. Any discussion? Ms.
I
Reeves?
just want to say to this board that we appreciate your hard work and your dedication, and we expect great things out of you in your community. It's certainly an area of great need. So we're going to be watching and anticipating great things from you.
We won't let you down.
We appreciate your confidence.
I also want to just say, I think you're ready now for conversion. I think, you know, after 3 years, the community knows that it's changing. Things are changing.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you changing the name.
Absolutely.
I really do. I think that's important.
And actually, my motion should say Hobgood Charter School, because they're requesting a name change.
And also, if I could make a point, remind the community that this is a public school,
Yes.
so that that confusion, that ambiguity goes away. This is a public charter school of choice.
Great.
All right, we have a motion on the table in a second. Any other discussion or debate on the motion?
Excuse me, for clarification, does your motion state what the name is going to be? That'll keep us from having to go through the amendment process if that's what your motion says.
Okay.
And you want it to be Hobgood Charter School?
Hobgood Charter School.
Right,
Yes.
Hopgood
I would like to
Charter.
recommend to the State Board of Education, Hopgood Charter School for the acceleration ready to open in August 2019.
So that is the motion.
Second.
We'll go ahead and second it again just to make sure. Any
Bruce
discussion or debate on the clarified motion? All right, then. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed? The ayes have it unanimously. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for your dedication and effort. It's vitally needed. It's appreciated. We've taken every word of advice that you've given us. We appreciate your work.
Thank you. We appreciate you.
Doing the hard work.
It's just begun.
Yeah. Sometimes they're so excited and then it's like, get busy.
Give us a nice little break here.
All right, so we're gonna stay on schedule because we have a presentation right before lunch, and I see no reason to move Revolution up. So we'll just take a nice break here, and we'll start at promptly at 11:05. Maybe everybody be back in your seat. Yeah, let's start at 11 and give us extra 5
Gives
minutes.
us 5 minutes.
Yep.
That's a good one, Doug.
It's so loud. This is a teacher timer. This is my teacher timer.
I'm going to find Alex and your timing.
So the kids can hear it. It's a good timer. It's a good timer.
So they're like
That's the
teachers
best kind of
ticking
timer.
This is how much time we have. We are on
Rabbit
schedule.
food and chicken. Better be careful. Better be careful we don't offend Patrice. Is she on the order that? And the cookies were hard. They were like week-old cookies.
later today.
You all ready? Yep, great. So,
The applicant coming before, if he's ready. The applicant coming before the board today is Revolution Academy. This interview will be led by Alex Quigley. They're proposing to locate in Guilford County. Their proposed grade levels and projected student enrollment are as follows. Year 1, K through 6, 398 students. Year 2, K through 7, 646 students. Year 3, K through 8, 727 students. Year 4, K through 8, 727 students. Year 5, K through 8, 727 students. We did not have an LEA impact or due diligence completed for this application. Pass-fail ratings were as follows. Mission, purposes, and goals, 4 pass, 1 fail. Education plan, all pass. Governance and capacity, all pass. Operations, 4 pass, 1 fail. Finance, 4 pass, 1 fail. This applicant is requesting an acceleration, and they are a repeat applicant. They previously received a full interview. This applicant has had a participation at every required RTO planning year session.
great.
He did not. Okay.
Flooded.
Hello, I'm Mary Catherine Sauer. I'm currently the board chair. I'm a charter school founder, and I will plan to step off the board upon approval and become the founding principal.
My name is John Hardster. I'm from Guilford County. I serve in the House of Representatives, and I'm a board member.
Morning, my name is John Nossick. I'm a realtor in Greensboro, as well as a board member, and I'm the treasurer.
Good morning, my name is Lisa Walker. I am a former teacher, and I also have 3 kids who attend a charter school in Greensboro. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Elaine Graziano. I'm a 30-year retired teacher, secretary of the board. I spent my last 4 years teaching in a charter school, and my grandchildren go to charter school.
Good morning. My name is Paul Daniels. I'm the vice chairman of the board. I am an attorney. I'm also a former member of the Guilford County Board of Education. Thank you.
All right, great. So, as you know, they are requesting acceleration, so we can kind of talk through that first and then dig into the rest of the application. What thoughts or questions does the board have, particularly as we think about acceleration?
So what is the identified facility? Refresh my memory.
Could you all could someone talk to us about the facility?
Sure. Yes, thank you for that question. We plan to construct a permanent facility that will accommodate all grade levels, K through 8. Our board's been working with American Charter Development to secure a site for a permanent facility, and a commercial realtor has been retained to find a suitable location within our target area. The proposed facility will be built in phases. It will sit on approximately 20 acres of land and initially include 37,000 square feet with a playground, parking, and field. Our estimate for the first phase is $9 million at $243 per square foot. This estimate is in line with Piedmont Classical High School's new facility, a charter school that was recently completed in Guilford County. In the meantime, we've secured a temporary facility at the Church of 68. Terms have been agreed upon, and we will lease the space for $9.68 per square foot. The facility already has a certificate of occupancy for education and needs no upfit. It has previously been leased to 3 other charter schools.
What's its capacity, student capacity?
The student capacity for the temporary facility, I don't know the maximum amount, but I do know that it will accommodate the enrollment that we are targeting.
400 kids for year 1, but will it accommodate nearly 650 year 2?
I believe so. Mary Catherine, do you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, so our plan is if we get approval for acceleration, we're going to be in that temporary facility the first year. We're going to work quickly to try to build our permanent facility. We understand that because of construction, that might not be ready in August of 2020. And if that's the case, we have a plan to leave our students in K through 4 at the current facility, and we've already been talking to another facility that already also has a certificate of occupancy for education already, and we plan to lease that facility for the 5th, 6th, and 7th grade. So we have that's our backup plan in case our permanent facility is not ready in 2020.
What's the proximity of the two?
I'm sorry?
What's the proximity of the two properties if you had to split the students?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm guessing it's about eight miles, but I don't know that for sure. That will actually, you bring up a good point, cause some transportation challenges, and there are lots of ways that we'll work with the parents to address that. It could be a staggered dismissal. It could be we already have a situation where parents can drop their students off early, over 30 minutes before the start of school. So we would work with the parents to make sure that that's, and again, it would be a matter of, we're not talking about a full year. We're talking about weeks, maybe a couple of months, because it would be in the event of construction delays.
Well, this 20-acre property, has it been identified?
Well, no, ma'am. We've been looking, and we have several possibilities, and we're going to continue looking into, but we've not identified which one. We're waiting for approval before we can act. There's a lot of due diligence that costs money that has to go into vetting a facility, a permanent site.
Yeah, that's one of my concerns kind of with the acceleration on this one.
Yes, sir.
Is it almost makes more sense for the viability and the health of the school to go through the regular ready-to process, so you can start working on that permanent facility and start securing that, and then have your year one in the temporary facility. But you would be going, I mean, you know, I'm kind of on the fence about it because I know there's some wait list issues in the area. You know, there are school choice options in Guilford County, but there could be some more. And so I guess that's where, you know, I think the school's great, right? I mean, that's my number one issue that I'm trying to wrestle with is, you know, is it the best for the school and the best for the students to accelerate if we're going to end up, you know, because I think we all know the way facilities work, you're probably going to end up having to split those students up and have the 8 miles separating your two campuses and all that goes with it. And so, you know, what's your board's kind of thought on that of whether it would, you know, just make more sense to just go ahead and go through the regular ready to open process just so you have time to get that permanent facility in place and only be 1 year in the temporary facility?
Well, thank you. I appreciate that question. And one of the things that I wanted to add to some of the stuff John said is that I actually have opened 2 schools, and I've opened 1 school on this time frame. When Cornerstone opened, we were one of the first fast-track schools. So Cornerstone got final state board approval in March and opened in August. And we are months ahead of where Cornerstone was by a long shot. They opened with over 500 students, and so I know what we're getting into. I know what to expect, and I know what it's going to take to open well and open strong and have a strong school.
And I appreciate that. I think it was a little bit different at the point when that happened. It was like somebody had put a kink in the well, I mean in the hose, and all that pressure was building up, and at that point then when it opened up and the cap was lifted and all these schools came in on the fast track, then there's just a whole bunch of students that were ready to go, where now you've got a little bit more work to do to
well,
find students.
In some ways you might be right, but actually we had a big challenge at that time because charter schools weren't as well known, and there weren't as many, especially in Guilford County. We had a few that had been there a long time. We had one that had closed. So we actually had a lot to overcome to get students in there. They didn't kind of believe that we were gonna open. We also have we've had 3 other very large openings in Guilford County because I think we're still bottled up. We haven't come close to meeting the demand. But as far as why we want to go ahead and accelerate instead of wait, one of the things is we have a lot of things in place. If you're looking at, you're going to allow us to open, which I hope you are looking at it that way, and which way is going to be the best for us and give us the best chance. it would be the acceleration. It's going to cost us more money. We potentially lose. The biggest thing I'm worried about is the staff we already have in place and the volunteers that are ready to volunteer this spring and this summer. We're going to open well either way, but it's going to be easier for us to do it on the accelerated timeline. We are aware of the construction issues, and it's not ideal to separate the campuses, though it's not uncommon for charter schools to permanently have different locations. One of the things that we're looking at is the possibility of choosing one of the permanent locations that is just outside the city limits, because my construction people tell me that it's easier to do things quickly if you don't have to deal with the city of Greensboro. We're definitely conscious of that. My developers tell me that it's really an 8-month build, and the problem is, again, all the due diligence we have to do. So we're doing everything we can to make sure that goes smoothly, but we have a very solid backup plan if the construction's not ready for the second year.
So Mayor Catherine, speaking of facilities, separated campuses, etc., could you explain the transportation plan?
Yes, ma'am. John, Mr. Hardister's ready to do that if you don't mind.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you for the question about transportation.
Chairman, quickly, excuse me. Need some clarification on this application. Their pass-fail ratings, they passed everything. I think we've got them listed as failing 1 or 2 categories. Before they go forward, we wanted to make sure we cleared it up. They passed everything. We apologize for the thing. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Transportation.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the question. Transportation will not be an impediment for students attending our school. We will collaborate with families to ensure that students have a safe, effective method of getting to school. As with many charter schools, we do expect that a lot of students will carpool. Our staff will assist in that effort. We also will open the school at 7:30 a.m. to accommodate parents who are on their way to work. We also expect to have an active PTO to assist in that effort. However, if you look at the application, we recognize that many students will need further assistance getting to school, especially ED students, and that's why in the first year of operation, we've budgeted $130,000 that will go towards a contract for buses, and that will cover 3 buses. Each bus will carry 70 students respectively for a total of 210 within the first year of operation. That would be more than 50% of our targeted enrollment. And then moving on into year 2 and beyond, we're looking at $225,000 in our budget, which will cover up to 5 buses and 350 students.
I'd like to talk about the ed plan. Are we ready, or?
Well, I want to go back to,
Need a microphone, Cheryl.
I want to go back to the proposed grades and that. I have some real concerns about year 1 to year 2 going from 400 kids to 650.
That'd be me. I can yeah, so the question is on enrollment. We're looking at in the first year to have 398 students. Then, as you noted, moving up into the year 2020-21, there will be a jump in enrollment. 80 of those students will be new through kindergarten, 54 are new through 6th grade, and also 108 through 4th and 5th grades to fill out those grade levels. What we've identified is that the reason to fill out those grade levels would be to allow for heterogeneous classrooms, limit large-scale scaffolding of core knowledge to 2 years, fill out special schedules, get grades, grade levels, teaching teams working together sooner, facilitates building community within grade levels, and it will help to fill out the facility. And we believe we've stipulated that in the budget and that it would be attainable.
And I know that's difficult to understand because you're not looking at the chart. And I guess what I'd like to just add to what John said is that in our first year, we only have 1 classroom for grades 3, 4, and 5.
What about
Sorry, yes.
6?
No, 3, 4, and 5, because we have
Sixth
three
grade has
classrooms
three.
we plan 3 classrooms for 6th grade. 6th grade and kindergarten will be, we think, the easiest to fill. Those are the most letters of intent we have so far, and they're natural points of changing schools. The 6th grade, we actually think generally in Guilford County, and I'm speaking mostly because I'm familiar with charter schools in Guilford County more than any other, but in Guilford County, the middle school enrollment drives the other enrollment. So people send their charter schools many times, their kids to charter schools many times when they're young in order to have that place in middle school, because they're afraid Guilford County middle schools have some more issues than some of their other schools. So we think that 6th grade will fill out well. That second year, we want to fill out the 6th grade as well. So that one class of 5th grade moves up, and then we want to add 2 classes for that 6th grade. That makes the middle school planning so much easier. That makes the staffing for middle school easier, and that makes the middle school work. We also don't think we're going to have trouble getting those students in 6th grade. So we'll keep our 6th graders, and they'll go to 7th grade. We'll get new ones in for 5th grade. That accounts for the majority of that growth between that and the kindergartners coming in. The rest of that growth is because we would like to fill out those 4th and 5th grade classrooms as well. And part of the reason for that is if I'm putting a 3rd grader into this school, I don't want that 3rd grader to be in the same class with all the same kids for 3 or 4 years in a row, right? We wanted that ability to be able to switch the classes around and get that heterogeneous mix is why we use that word. And it'll also make the planning, because then the teachers will start working in grade level teams. The first year, the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade teachers will be what PLC by themselves, which is not ideal, because it's good to have that support with people who teach the same grade that you teach. And so that's why we really are very strategic and have really thought it through, but that's why the big jump. It also helps us with core knowledge. The first 2 years actually on our plan here, there's a lot of backfill because kids aren't coming in and they haven't had the core knowledge for before, right? So if we can limit that huge influx of new students to the first 2 years, that makes it easier to get on board with doing the core knowledge with fidelity in the right way, and what'll get us to be in a school of distinction faster.
I'd like to ask a question on the facility, going back to that. So assuming everything goes well and your new facility then is going to be opening in 2020.
Yes, sir.
That's 37,000 square feet for the 646 number. Is that same facility going to be used for when this numbers are 727?
Yes, sir. That we anticipate, if we can start this August and we can expand the way we plan, we anticipate to be able to have the full school and not have to do it in phases. If we have to do it in phases, that's a possibility, and we will look at that.
What is the square footage of the facility? 37,000 feet for 727 students.
That sounds right. I don't have it, and we can look it up.
That's correct.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
It seems really small.
That's 50.
That's the first
50
phase.
square feet.
Oh, is it?
That's the first phase.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's,
We detailed that it would be
so that's for
constructed
646 students.
Yes, ma'am. I
Then are you
apologize.
going to build out again the next year?
Pardon me?
Then you build out again the following year?
If we have a phase 2, then that would be that we would be under construction while we're still there. That's what Piedmont Classical has done. They've built it in phases, and it honestly, some of that though depends on the cost of the land, and sometimes we can get the cost of construction lower. Sometimes it increases higher. There are a lot of variables in the actual construction.
So what we do know is that in year 2, you'd have 646 students in a 30,000 square foot facility.
It's tight.
37,000 square foot.
30,000 square foot facility.
Yes, if you want to see the applications first.
Sorry.
And possibly as many as 727 if you don't expand the facility.
Correct.
Okay. What we have in the application is that 37 square, but we're working with people who've done this before, and we're going to make sure that we have enough room for the kids. Yes, sir.
I have concerns with the large aggressive numbers to start with, but then the classroom sizes are quite large.
Yeah.
As I stated before, I taught at Cornerstone the last 4 years of my career, and I started off with 27 children each year. It's definitely manageable if you set your expectations and have consistency. You can work the first 2 or 3 weeks getting these children to know what's expected, and my worst problem was too much talking. I mean, the children will respond to knowing their expectations, and it works very well.
But
I didn't even have
the state has set a bar that's far less than that. Shouldn't we try to mirror that in our charter schools?
I think that kind of the purpose of charter schools is to offer something different. I think that the state has set a bar, and there have been issues with that, but we can do something different if we make it work. If it works and the parents are willing to do it, I think we have a model that works well. We're actually I don't have any new ideas, honestly. I'm not that creative. I look and see what's worked for other people, and I try to take those ideas and build something great with it. And I think we're basing all these things off proven models. Those class sizes are in line with Greensboro Academy and Cornerstone, and that's what my kids went through. I've seen it work. If it doesn't work, we'll adjust, but I think that's a model that works.
So you're looking at 25 per class? 27?
It's actually, in kindergarten, it's 20.
Kindergarten's 20, okay.
Yes, ma'am. And after the first year in kindergarten and first grade, it's 20. Then it goes up to 27. And, yeah, but again, it's a proven model that's worked for Guilford County.
You know, I'm a young parent. I'm putting my kid in your school. The LEA has 18 students in a second grade classroom, and I'm going to put my kid in 27.
Yeah, thousands of students are doing that in Guilford County right now. All the NHA schools have that close to that class size. Cornerstone has close to that class size. They have over 1,400 students on their waiting list this year. So we offer other things that parents like. We definitely have designed our school to appeal to lots of parents, and that's one of the things that the class size is kind of they give up to get some of the other things that we offer.
It's a trade-off.
Yes, ma'am. Everything. Yes, ma'am.
I mean, one comment I would have on that is, Cornerstone and the schools that you're citing are not economically diverse.
Well, Gate City Charter School is, and their class sizes, it's an NHA school, so I think their class sizes.
Their application was redone to lower class sizes for that one.
Oh, okay.
And I mean, you're saying that your school is going to mirror the racial and economic diversity of Greensboro. I mean, we know that when you I think second grade is early. I think class size is kind of an overblown kind of desired item in schools, and I think, but parents are going to ask about it. They always ask about it, and they care about it because it's just a simple way it's an oversimplified way for them to determine whether or not their kid is going to get a good education, so they fixate on it. But I think second grade, 27 in second grade, that seems lead. Like maybe in fifth grade or fourth grade.
I mean, I would say fourth grade. I mean, I've seen some do it with more than that. I was, I guess my thoughts on it have modified and changed over the years. They used to be, the lower the class size, the better. And then what I found, the more schools I visited, that's way on down the list of what makes a school successful, that the most important thing is the quality of the teacher in the classroom.
I was going to say, it depends on.
If you've got a good teacher, they can do 40 students if you've got a really good teacher.
And I agree with you. That's why if you look at our average teacher salary, it's on the high end.
It's hard
to be average. And having those large class sizes kind of allows us to make sure we have the best teachers in it. And when my kids were coming through school, it's exactly that. I would have rather them had that excellent teacher with any number of kids, but than the one that's not as good with only 10. Because it really is, you're right about the classroom teacher.
If I could make an observation, Summerfield Charter Academy that opened in 2013, kindergarten class sizes are 22, 1 through 8 are close to 27, 28 kids per class. And the parents do complain about that, but that is mitigated by the classroom and school culture. And that relationship with good teachers in the classroom and good teacher training. But just FYI, 28 in Summerfield Charter, it's less than Greensboro Academy, it's 24.
Disadvantaged, meeting the needs of all kids in a classroom with 27 kids, when you're working with kids who are behind, is a problem. That it makes a difference. It really does make a difference. And they're saying they want to mirror it sounds to me like the school will then end up looking like Summerfield or looking like Greensboro Academy, because those are the kids who are going to be able to survive in that environment, and be successful in that environment.
We actually have thought of some of that, because we're committed to having a balanced school. And again, I've got a good track record with this. With each school, I've gotten better. And Piedmont is very diverse in every way possible, I think. So that's what our goal is. That's why we're doing the free and reduced lunch. We increased the budget for that. That's why we're doing providing the buses, the transportation. We're going to target our marketing to make sure that we get all kinds of kids to come in, because I think it benefits all the kids. But we've set up some supports in place. Obviously, we added the MTSS, but we also have a full-time tutor the first year, and that increases in years after, which is something a little bit different. We obviously have the EC services, but there are a whole lot of students that struggle that don't qualify for EC. So we're filling that gap, and so those kids are not going to fall through the cracks. We are committed to helping all of our students, but we think that this will work for all of our students.
If I could just weigh in on that briefly, I appreciate the question, and I'll echo the comments from Alan Hawks. I believe that the culture of the school is pivotal, and we feel like with our academic model and also with the 4 pillars where we talk about traditional back to basics, rigorous education, but in addition to that, parental involvement I think is key. That's something we'll stress. Character education and student responsibility. We think those pillars will make the smaller classrooms workable, and again, quality teachers in the classroom as well.
So
now you talk about diversity. Are you doing a weighted lottery?
No, we've chosen not to. The board has discussed that. We feel like it's best to keep it open and make it equitable to anyone who applies. We feel like with the marketing that we're doing with the target area, we're likely to have a diverse background. In addition to that, the lunch program and the busing that we're providing, particularly for ED students, will make the school accessible for students who may be economically disadvantaged.
Can y'all just remind me real quick about how many students, do you have like letters of intent, things like that? How many you're at now?
We do. I believe we're around 70 letters of intent at this time. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and over 400 responses on our online survey.
Thank you, Representative.
For a comparison, we had 384 of the survey responses responded positively that they agree that they would send their child to a school, K-8 traditional back to basics classical school like Revolution Academy.
I have some questions about the ed plan. So I felt like the instructional plan was kind of thin, and also you referenced classical education in the mission, but I didn't really see how that lived outside of core knowledge in the ed plan.
Okay, we tried to. That's one of the ways we tried to strengthen it this year. From last year was to give a better explanation of how the classical ties in to the core knowledge. And I guess the best explanation I can give you is the Trivium has the grammar phase of being very content information rich, and that ties in right with the core knowledge. So that K through 5 is where we focus on that grammar stage, lots of content. We've got that's where the core knowledge comes in there. Once you give kids something to think about, because they have to have the information, they have to have something to think about. Then the middle school years, with the dialectic stage is kind of, we get into more how to think about things, how to look at it from all sides, how to form arguments. And that's why after the first year in middle school, we're going to add Latin and logic to get that in. And then as they go on to high school, of course, with the other part of the trivium, it's once they have the information, then they're learning how to think about it. Well, now they have to learn how to express it and how to get that out and tell people that. We take all three of those parts of the trivium and we condense them down, and obviously we work on all three. So we have kindergartners, when they do a project, they might get up in front of the class and present that project. But the focus on the K through 5 is the grammar stage with the information, and then the focus on the middle school, they're obviously still getting information in middle school, but then it's the logic and the dialectic phase.
Have you selected a math curriculum or no?
We have, and maybe Elaine, because I'm not.
Well, we're going to have teachers visiting other schools to see how they're implementing Saxon and Eureka Math, and see which one we think would be the best to meet the standards of the state and be the best for our students. So we'll be visiting to see the actual teaching of the different.
But those are the two programs you're looking at, Saxon and Eureka.
So the representative talked about culture and the importance of culture, and having the pillars, and how, walk me through, like, how do we make that live how does that actually, what does that look like in real, in actionable ways in the school?
Thank you. I will try to do that. It starts obviously with the teachers and the staff, and so part of that staff development before the first day of school will include some of that. But as far as the school culture, one thing is we're going to have morning assemblies, and those are times when the whole school comes together and says the Pledge of Allegiance and talks about our character education piece and recognizes students for various things, including their character education or their demonstration of the character virtues that we.
Is that every day? Morning assembly every day?
We anticipate morning assembly every day. We may divide it up so that the whole school is not in the assembly every day. We haven't finalized that yet because there are advantages, they tell me, to having different sections do assemblies themselves, but we expect an assembly every day, and we expect at least between 2 and 5 times a week to have the whole K-8 in the assembly together. So it really is a way to build that community. We're going to have a school creed. We're going to that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is, again, as Ms. Graziano said, with the high expectations. So we're going to take that first part of school and actually teach the kids how to do stuff, because they don't know, right? They're coming from lots of different places, and then the kindergartners are new to school. So we take time to practice things and to set those expectations, and that's another way we do it. Our character education piece is going to be a big part of that as well, because we're going to have service events where the whole school participates.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Are there questions on the ed plan?
If I could just add briefly. Yeah. The board's going to be fully immersed in this and building a community. There's a number of requirements for board, and it includes attending to PTO meetings, going to classes, those sorts of things. There's going to be a member of, there's going to be at least one parent on our Board of Education. I'm sorry, on our board. There's going to be lots and lots and lots of opportunities for parents and other stakeholders to meet face to face with board members and to talk about the school and to talk about what they like, what they don't like. We have parents on the school improvement team. We have obviously a PTO that's going to be reporting directly to the board. And all this is going to help us to build this sort of community that we need to have that would incorporate sort of these pillars that are going to be constantly reinforced. And this board is going to be, hearing from the stakeholders and trying to, build a school that everyone is proud of and that produces outstanding students.
considered adding any diversity to your board?
This board is open to anybody, and we set the standards. Well, the standards are very high, but we want to make it accessible to anybody. And one of the things that we ask board members to do is to make a financial contribution to the school, and that contribution can be anything. It could be, if you are wealthy and well-to-do, it could be $10,000. If you're more modest means, it could be $10. So we don't want any barriers for folks coming onto our board.
I'd like to follow up on that. Yes, your board is open to anyone, but what are you proactively doing to bring diversity to your board?
I would just simply say I believe we do have a diverse board. If you look at our respective backgrounds and professions and what we bring to the table, I think it's a very dynamic board, and we have members who really care about the vision of this school and want all children of all economic backgrounds and racial backgrounds and so forth to have access to quality education.
I mean, I'm interested in just frankly racial diversity, because if I'm a Hispanic or African American parent, and you know the representative people of the school, or there's no one reflecting my background, that may make me feel a certain type of way. And so I think I don't know, that's kind of what when Cheryl asked that question, that's what came to mind in terms of diversity. I do think you have you know, especially Ms. Sauer's experience. I know you've been very involved, representative in equity issues, leading the transportation bill in the House, and so I know you're very aware of those things. But there's, at some level, there's a baseline kind of level of comfort and accessibility. I don't know if that's what Mr. Friend was talking about.
It is. Thank you. I should have added that clarification.
Well, as Paul said, we're certainly open to that. We've been looking for the specific people, and when we put the board together, it was about who we knew would align with our vision of a classical education and who could help us get to the next level. And we actually did ask some people of color too that we knew would align well, but they couldn't do it, and we couldn't commit to it now. We're certainly open to that, and we're open to trying that. I do understand what you're saying, and one of the things we've done, one of the people that we've already approved to hire, one of the teachers, is a person of color, and we'll continue to do that. And you're right, it is important when you get into those communities. But we do have a lot of advocates, even though they're not on the board, that will help us do that. And we are looking to, we want everyone to be comfortable. And I do understand that. It works both ways.
I mean, I think it's about comfort. It's also about just making better decisions. You know, the bottom line is your board will make better decisions for kids when there are people that have that personal experience. That as much as we can be, as quite honestly, as white people, it's hard for us to. We just can't walk in those shoes. Bottom line.
And that's a fair point. And I do believe in collaborative decision making, and I do believe that different perspectives bring power and do make better decisions. And so we're happy. As soon as I step off, we'll start looking for another board member. We can add 2 more, and we want one of those to be a parent. And so.
Well, and I think you can get aggressive. I also think you're talking about replicating, not replicating, but drawing from some schools that have been successful in Greensboro. There's got to be parents of kids who are attending those schools that they're aware of the vision because their kids are going there.
Yes, sir.
You know, I would look there, see if you can find a parent from whose child is attending Greensboro Academy, you know, and who it says, hey, you know, if I could help make this type of school available for other parents like me, you know, there's a variety of people, you know, ways you could, you'll have to be aggressive about it, I imagine.
That's a fair point. Thank you.
Would you tell us again where the initial location of this school is going to be in Guilford County?
So our temporary location is at the church on 68, which is just south of 40 on 68, and it's a church that's hosted several schools. Piedmont Classical High School started there. The Point started there. This currently in High Point, they spent their first, I think, 2 or 3 years at that church. And most recently, the Experiential School of Greensboro, when their space wasn't ready, they leased space from this church as well. So.
And then where is the initial parcel that you're going to build on?
Well, we haven't selected that parcel yet.
Define target.
So that's an unknown at this stage.
Yes, sir. Again, there's a lot of due diligence that you have to do before you select a property. We've been looking at properties, but before we put money into a property, we wanted to make sure that we could get approval.
And you can do this all with the accelerated recommendation?
Yes, sir. Because we already have, again, we have a lease signed with the church, and we have a certificate of occupancy for the church, and that's where we're going to spend the first year, we know for sure. And we have, my developer tells me it's about an 8-month build, so that would be longer in the city of Greensboro, so we are giving priority to those parcels that we've looked at outside the city. It's also difficult in the middle of our target zone to find the 17 to 20 acres that we need, but we are continuing to look, and we found that with Piedmont, so we're a little bit optimistic there. If construction is delayed and it goes beyond, obviously we have more than the 8 months, but there's obviously a lot that goes on before you start construction, so we're working on that. We're already down the road with designing the school, and we've done as much pre stuff as we can. Do you want to mention
As a realtor, I'm sure you've all shopped for a home. Commercial property's not much different. The timelines are a little bit longer. That 8-month build is site work and everything. So a lot of times it involves clearing. That includes clearing trees, bringing in water if necessary. So we have accounted for a fairly substantial scope of work in that 8-month time frame.
I guess I'm just concerned where in Guilford County you're going to buy a parcel large enough that will give you the diversity that you're looking for in the student population.
I can tell you that we've scouted over at least 10 different sites so far, ranging throughout the county. Right now we're targeting northern Greensboro just because that's where a lot of land is available and coming available. But we've looked throughout the county, particularly northeast Greensboro as well, and that would pick up that diversity that you're talking about.
We also, Mr. Hawks, actually, one of the reasons we chose our target area is because the population in our target area within a 5-mile and an 8-mile radius kind of mirrors the population of Guilford County. So we've chosen a very diverse area to target. And one of the ways, even if we can't find a location in the middle of that target area, which would obviously be our first choice for that reason, our transportation plan with the buses going to community stops, we think, will allow us to have the diversity no matter where we put the school. We think we can get that because we have committed to at least 3 buses, and we're going to use that transportation plan to make sure we get the balance we need.
Can I mention one thing real briefly about that target area? The transportation network there, I think, is conducive to get the kids to school. I mean, we're looking at Highway 29 is there, Highway 220 is there, and then the urban loop that branches off of I-40/85 will run right through that area, so we think that'll be beneficial to our vision to get the children to school.
Yeah, Mr. Friend?
I don't mean to, well, I'm going to go back to the governance issue. I'm reading the application, and I heard you say that, and as I take from the application, each board member will support the school through a small annual financial contribution. Who defines small if I wanted to join your board?
It would, I'm sorry. It would be de minimis.
It'd be what?
De minimis. $10,
What's that?
$5 if that's what you can afford. And what it is, and I hate to use cliches, so I'm going to try not to avoid. I'm trying to avoid using one here. But what it shows is sort of dedication to the board. Some are going to be able to afford a lot, but We don't want that to be a barrier, but what we do want them to show is that the board members have a vested stake in the success of the school. And by a financial contribution as well as their time, their effort, their goodwill, they're able to show that. But we don't want there to be any barriers. We want good quality people on our board. And if you come from modest means, that's not going to be an impediment. If you've got $5 and that's all you can spend, that's great. We'd love to have you.
Okay, thank you. And I think you know the spirit of which I was asking that you weren't using language to prevent potential.
We're not at all. And honestly, unless you ask for our records and dig into them, we don't advertise what the board members have donated. One year on another board that had similar things, they all donated school supplies in lieu of that. So it's just we want your heart to be in it, and sometimes where you put your money, that's where your heart goes.
You have $8,000 in marketing. How are you planning on spending that to achieve the enrollment? What are you doing, and where are you doing it?
Yeah, where?
Yeah, so I can look up the marketing plan, but to get specifics in the application, we have those specifics. But essentially, we're actually doing a lot of Facebook ads. The way we're going to market to get the diversity, honestly, what we did to get the survey results are we printed up those little cards and we took them to daycares and preschools all over our target area, and that's how we got those survey responses. And so we're going to do something similar to that because going to that target area is important. When we had our information session that we've already had, we went to that target area. So we're going to go to community centers. We're going to go to churches, not at our temporary location exclusively, but we're going to go out into the community, and that's how you get people. The best, what I found in Guilford County is that the students come to you in pockets. So if I can get a couple students in this community, we have a lot of, we had a pocket of Mormon students, right? If I can get a couple students in that community, then they spread the word for us. So the key is we need a few students from lots of different communities, and that's how we're going to grow. So does that help? That's our...
Yeah, I'll just mention briefly that Mary Catherine mentioned the flyers and the grassroots effort, but the social media marketing we found is very effective. It's also very cost effective as well. That would include Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Especially with Facebook and Instagram, you can actually target geographic areas, and we found that to be very cost effective.
All right, so I'm gonna,
One more question, please. I guess this is for Ms. Sauer. You've cited Gate City Charter Academy, so you've opened the door. That is actually a high poverty at-risk school that in its second year just scored a C. And it utilizes the Dean model.
Yes, sir.
Of a K2, a 3-5, and a 6-8 Dean. But on it actually got turned down once, and I think it got approved on the second application when it added a fourth Dean, an intervention Dean. Have you considered, if you're going to really go after an at-risk high poverty demographic, that you consider the Dean model with maybe an intervention Dean?
I thank you for that question, because I have borrowed from that model because I've seen it work. And one of the things I will just say, kudos to NHA, because I visited Gate City and I was just blown away. I was so impressed with the behavior of the students. They were walking in lines better than I've seen any school walking down the hallway. It was a wonderful atmosphere, and you could just walk in the school and feel the culture. So I will be visiting Gate City again, because I want to know what they do for that. As far as the Dean model, that's kind of where our instructional coach comes in, and it's similar, but it's also different. So that instructional coach is only for support of the teachers in the curriculum. And whereas the Dean model, the deans also handle parent concerns and discipline sometimes, so they have other administrative duties. What we've done, instead of having those administrators like that, we've taken what I think is the most valuable thing the deans do, which is that support and help for the teachers, and kind of broken that out into one instructional coach. And then year 2, we add another instructional coach, because that's a really important piece of our thing. And then our instructional coach will be like a dean, except will not have the other administrative duties that your deans have. So I think that's why we don't need as many deans. And that full-time tutor that we added, while not an intervention coach, is there to help with some of that. And if you'll notice, that's why her salary is commensurate with the teachers, because she is a teacher. She's not a college student we hired to come in and read to kids. She's not a volunteer that we hired who's, to come in and read to kids. She's actually capable of helping students through the curriculum, similar to what, in some ways, what an EC teacher would do, but not for EC, just for any of those kids that struggle.
All right, so we have about 10 minutes. I'm going to close the questioning at this point and just open it up for discussion. What thoughts do people have? Usually we've been talking about acceleration first, so I guess we could talk about that. Thoughts from the group?
I'm actually concerned about being able to be ready for this August 30th on this acceleration.
Okay. Other?
I concur with Alan with the aggressive numbers. We're trying to target a specific student body, and then we're talking about building a facility while operating the first year. I'm not for acceleration. I'm certainly not against the school, but not for acceleration.
Actually, I'm totally on board with the school. We need the school, but this, I'm just not certain this can be done, this acceleration.
I think I would have, I'm on the fence about acceleration with it. I think if they'd had, 300 letters of intent, it would be different to me.
And that's the other thing, there's only 70.
And I think they've got a good start, and I think the school's going to be successful, and I don't want to set the school up to not be successful by accelerating. But I'm still on the fence. But it sounds like not too many people are on the fence.
Say that again.
I said I'm still on the fence, but it sounds like not about the school. The school, absolutely, 100%. Open. It's just acceleration. I'm on the fence about acceleration.
Well, I am too. I feel like you. I no question about the school. School, it's fine. The backup plan is what is a concern for me. Just that transportation is going to be a nightmare, especially being as far away, the two campuses being 8 miles apart. As we even say, 5 miles, you have to have an amendment to your charter agreement. It's 5 miles away. So that makes me concerned about acceleration. However, I'm not concerned about the application in school.
I kind of feel the same way. I'm not concerned about the school. I think the issues that others and I myself raised around diversity of the board can easily be addressed. Whether it's before or after school opening. I will say that while I heard the discussion on class sizes, and there's research that shows that class size actually has a pretty mitigating factor in terms of our overall student performance based upon grade level. The facility strikes me as they're talking about 37,000 square foot facility for 646 kids, and then eventually 727. Basing on my experience, I've got a 40,000 square foot facility, and I'm busting at the seams with 609 students. But again, I share that concern, but not to the point where I wouldn't support the school.
Okay. Sounds like we're probably ready for a couple motions.
Make a motion. Make a motion that we do not approve Revolution Academy for acceleration.
Would second that.
I'm sorry, would you repeat that again, Linda?
Would not recommend Revolution Academy for acceleration.
Thank you.
And Lynn seconds.
So it's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion on not approving acceleration for Revolution Academy? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? Okay, motion carries.
I make a motion that we do approve Revolution Academy for ready to open status for the following year, or regular program.
Recommend them to the state board for ready to open
Right,
status.
ready to open
Second that.
status.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion on that motion? All right, hearing none. All in favor? All right. Carries unanimously. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Congrats.
All right, so it's 11:58. We were right on schedule. Could stop my timer. I think I see Mr. Olson in the background from Henderson Collegiate, so I imagine we are probably ready to hear from those folks in about a couple minutes. Very excited about it. This is the best part of our day.
You guys, this board has gone through a day and a half of hard applications, and now you get to see some of the fruit of your labor. Victor Clifton is a senior at Henderson Collegiate that just got accepted to Duke University.
Wow.
And also is awarded a full ride scholarship to Duke.
Wow.
So we've invited Victor to come speak to us. He's with his sister, you say? His mother. And Mr. Olson, would you like to say anything before Victor gets up here? And I will say that Jay and I visited Henderson Collegiate 2 weeks ago to talk to him about a CSP grant, and I had the pleasure of Victor showing us around the school. Very mature young man, and for us that have run high schools, getting an acceptance to Duke University
That's
is
a big
something you
win.
really
Yep.
hang your shingle on. So congratulations. Very proud to be here. And Mr. Olson, do you want to introduce him?
Yeah, I can introduce the celebrity. First of all, thank you for having us here today. See some familiar faces. Good to be in good company. Yeah, Victor is someone who we are incredibly proud of, and I think to the point made earlier, it is a success story and the fruit of a lot of labors that this advisory board works so hard to produce. Charter school success stories like Victor's. His, I think, is unique in the sense that, you know, we started the high school 4 years ago with really just kind of a piece of paper on a Word document on a laptop. I visited Joe's school and tried to learn from him, and visited a lot of other schools to try and learn from the best. And now we're sitting with our very first graduating class on the cusp of graduation. And Victor is a headliner of headliners. So we have several students who are going to competitive schools. We're on track for 100% graduation rate. We're on track to have 100% of our students accepted to a 4-year college or university. But the one, yeah, thank you. But I think the story that has grabbed the most attention is the fact that Victor was selected as a Questbridge Scholar. In our consultancies with other schools, we've just learned that schools can go 2 decades and even more without ever getting a Questbridge Scholar. And so for us in our first year to have a Questbridge Scholar is a huge honor and is a huge testament to the hard work of Victor. And then at the same time, he, as was mentioned, as a Questbridge Scholar, will not only get acceptance to Duke, but a full ride scholarship valued at over $300,000. Wow. So it's, I don't think I'm bragging to say that we are incredibly proud of him, his hard work. It wasn't just kind of like, you know, just go through the motions. Victor took every AP course available, even when we had a smaller buffet of options. He took every single option that he could. He took every honors class he could. He enrolled in the most rigorous pathway and still excelled. He was in the Duke TIP program over the summer, so his summers were not summers. When so many students were taking time off, he continued to work his tail off. Went to Rice University, to LSU, and to Duke over his summers. So this is just the fruition of not only this board's work to approve charter schools that are making a difference, but also of all of his hard work that has led him to kind of the the cusp of the rest of his life as he starts at Duke in the fall. So with that, I'll turn it over to Victor to share a few thoughts.
When did he begin?
So you want me to share about myself? Okay. Well, my name is Victor. Victor Clifton. I'm a senior, as mentioned. I've been going to Henderson Collegiate since the 4th grade. So once the school started back in 2010, my mother signed me back up then. Henderson Collegiate has always talked about college. It's in the name. So back then, it wasn't as tangible for me, simply because it was so far away. I was 10 at the time, so obviously college wasn't the main focus on my mind. As time progressed, things became more real as we began to visit colleges. I tell the story, but 5th grade, one thing that we do at Henderson Collegiate is do college tours. We've done many of them, and it starts even in 4th grade. But 5th grade, we went to Duke. And I remember coming out and being on the West Campus and seeing the chapel. And I knew it. This is it. This is it. And then ever since then, I had seen more colleges. I've seen UNC. I've been to UVA. I've been to Georgetown. And then it was just something always calling me back to Duke. So when this year really started, when my senior year started, I knew where my heart was going to guide me to. So when Questbridge emailed me about becoming a Questbridge Scholar and the college match process, and I seen that they had Duke on the list as one of the schools for them, I knew that it was kind of meant to be. And what's even more surreal to me was that Duke and Questbridge, let me explain Questbridge. So Questbridge has a partnership with over 40 different schools. And out of those 40 schools, you get to choose who you want to apply to. Fortunately, Duke became a partnership with Questbridge literally 2 years ago. So if I had applied in 2015, none of this would have happened because Duke wasn't a partnership. So I felt like this time was just meant to be, rather. And when the process hit, it was a long process, rigorous process, as you can expect. And once I realized that I was accepted into the program itself, so there's 2 stages. Questbridge, you got to get into the program, then you got to get into the school. Once I realized I first got into the program, I was ecstatic. I was like, this is it. Like, this is what my dreams are really coming to. And then came the process for applying to Duke itself. And they had a short application, but the application was meant to get a lot out of you. And then I submitted that, and then I waited about 3 weeks or maybe more. And then I remember the day, December 3rd. I remember the time, 3 o'clock. We had all sat around. Mr. Olson was there. Mr. Sanchez was there, the founder of the school. And we would all posted around the computer. And then I was just sitting there, twiddling my fingers while I waited for the notification. But I remember finally seeing, check the status update. And a lot of things become surreal to me because, yes, it feels like it was yesterday, but like, this is literally what we've been talking about for years, and what Mr. Olson hinted at. Like, this is what the long nights go into. This is what the many classes and doing the extracurricular activities, it was literally for that moment. And then I still remember clicking the button and waiting for the page to load and simply seeing congratulations at the top. And all I said was, I'm not the most overdramatic person, but all I said was, I got in. And then the whole room exploded. I had friends coming in. My phone was blowing up the whole night. My mom's phone was blowing up the whole night. And I remember that because it was so important to me.
You can watch it on Facebook too, if you want to see it. I've watched it. I will say I watched it probably 10 times myself. Just the pure joy and just the years of it's evident in that you had a group of people surrounding you and how much love there was in the room and that was. You should all watch it.
I'll have to go back and watch it.
What do you want to study at Duke, and what do you want to do afterwards?
See, this is where it gets interesting. I would love to do psychology. I've always been interested in how people think and how people act in certain situations. But in terms of that, there's two really avenues I want to go down to. So my first initial plan was law, and going to law school. And obviously psychology would help in law, but that was one avenue that I wanted to take. The other one would be I wanted a government job, so like FBI, CIA. I always wanted a job that I can tell my kids, look, I did this, and be proud about what I'm putting my hard work into, spending my whole life building a career in. But as time goes on, obviously things are going to change. So that's why I'm trying to remain open-minded and not say, oh, I'm doing law, or I'm going the FBI/CIA route. So yeah, those are my main two plans I want out of college.
Could we have your mom come up?
Oh, sure. We'd love to come up.
Because I'm quite certain Mr. Olson wasn't personally driving him to all of these activities.
Credit where credit's due.
and being there in the house late at night doing all the work and making sure he was doing the homework and everything. And could you maybe share a couple of thoughts about your reflections of being a parent of Henderson Collegiate, a parent of the Pride, and what that's meant to you for him to be able to attend this school? I think this board is particularly interested in that from your perspective and really values your perspective.
And I'd like to add, what made you put him in a charter school in 4th grade?
Well, is this on? Mm-hmm. Okay. Hi, my name is Carla Johnson, and this is my only son, Victor. And he's just been a joy since he was born. Originally, he was in a Christian school because I wanted him to have a good, solid foundation, which I was a shift worker, so it was just important for me that he, had a good Christian foundation. And one of the teachers was coming to Henderson Collegiate, and we admired her so. And when she told us about it, I wasn't familiar with the school system because I was in the military and I retired from the Army. Just had to throw that in. I'm also a Desert Storm veteran.
Thank you for your service.
And you're welcome. Let me see. He did so much talking. I'm trying to keep it short. So when one of the teachers was leaving, she told me about it because I wasn't from this area. I was delighted to go. So we had a meeting, kind of like in the field before they even had the tent up or anything. So we're one of the founding families from the beginning. And I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm a walk and talk at Henderson Collegiate, try to get people to come, because it's just not reading, math, and arithmetic. It's so many other things that, I didn't have when I was going to school, like helping your community and trying to solve problems in the community. So that's all I knew about a charter school.
We are. I know he's glad that you made that choice, and we are too.
Yeah, and we don't live necessarily near the school, so I had to commute him to the school, and which I didn't mind because I was able to do that. It was something else you asked.
It's been worth it.
Yeah, it's definitely been worth it. He's always just been a hard worker. I didn't have to be on him about anything. He's a reader. He has his own library in his room, all the books that he's read. And just recently, I'm just say this and that's going to be it. He's like, oh, see those books up there? Those are my favorite books up there. So he has a shelf of favorite reads and authors and everything. So it's just a delight to see him. And I'm glad that he's going to do it because I'm still here in North Carolina and he'll be able to come see me.
Well, congratulations to you too. We know it's a partnership and it's not just the school, it's not just the student, it's the parent as well. So congratulations to you. You all earned it.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for coming. Definitely the best part of the day, best part of the last
You're gonna stay for lunch, too.
2 days
Oh,
and
good.
the next day. Great.
We'd like to get a picture.
Great.
Oh, okay.
Joe, do you think the superintendent's here? We can maybe take him down to the second floor and get a picture?
He's not in the building right now. Yeah.
You can take them with the superintendent's
Chief of staff, we might do that too.
guy.
This
guy.
do that.
All right, let's get our
Oh, we're
picture.
gonna get our picture.
We're getting our pictures.
Let's get our picture made.
Our photo op.
Can we turn the screen off?
Yeah.
You're gonna raise the,
Let's take the revolution out.
Yeah,
Were you there?
Oh, let's see if I can share.
Wait a minute.
No, I'm trying to. There we go. Thank you.
Where's the good looking one?
I gotta see his YouTube. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't.
That's so awesome. Take my glasses out of my ear.
this in Henderson, is that the recreation center, ACOG?
ACOG Recreation Center.
Just them in the middle.
I'll be able to get in the picture.
Come on in. Let him get in the center.
I mean, I was really short.
She can be there.
Come on in, Joe. Congratulations. Thanks.
Good move.
Free advertisement.
Clean up our mess.
Okay, y'all ready? Say, awesome charter.
Awesome charter.
All right, great job. You don't mind being in.
Oh, it's getting
we
got one more
coming.
One more.
One more? Oh, a real one.
Is that good?
Keep smiling. He's getting live video. It's Facebook Live.
Did it happen yet, or?
Yeah, okay,
All right,
good.
we're good.
Hey,
It's different when you do it on video.
Yes.
Oh,
Okay.
Plus, he's a real photographer, so he knows.
today.
Our faces frozen.
Okay.
All right, I gotta finish it.
Should've went to Clemson,
Okay. That's the first I've known about Questbridge. Did you know about Questbridge?
Congratulations. Just y'all keep in
Wow.
touch and let us know what big important job you're gonna have one day. I'll probably see him on TV.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Here, yes. Did you know about Questbridge?
No, I was unfamiliar with that, so I wrote it down.
Oh man, look at their website.
I need to,